90-some days ago, we left one Florida town, a season complete, a champion crowned. That was then. This is now. Now is a chance for drivers like Dale Earnhardt Jr. to build on a family's name. Now is a chance for the defending Sprint Cup Series champion Tony Stewart to make history. Now is a chance for others to prove they belong. Now is a chance, an opportunity to do it all over again. Now is a chance to do it better. Now is a chance to make it.
This is Daytona, the place where names are made. The only place where time stands still at 200 miles per hour. Today, the NASCAR Nationwide Series stars of tomorrow travel in the tracks of those who paved the way. They race for the trophy, but the real prize is to be added to the Daytona roll call. To seize a place among legends. To earn the right to share a name, a number. To prove worthy of a second chance. And to proudly stand on the ground paved by those who came before. This is the place where stories are written, where one moment becomes timeless, and youth becomes legend. This is the place where names are made. This is Daytona.
It's a pleasure to welcome you to the kickoff event, race one of the 2012 NASCAR Nationwide Series season. There is so much excitement. There is so much anticipation for the drivers and for the fans. And there is the driver with a target on his back. Why? Because Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is the defending Nationwide Series champion. The 2011 Truck Series champion is a full-time Nationwide Series driver. This year, Austin Dillon, the grandson of Richard Childress, the driver of the 3. The driver of the 12, a former IndyCar Series champion, a former Indy 500 winner, but now he is here. It's a second chance for Sam Hornish Jr. and arguably the most experienced driver in the field, Elliott Sadler. Last year's championship runner-up. If he wants a chance to get back into the Cup Series, is this his last chance? Hornish is all in. Elliott Sadler is all in, and we are all in the ESPN pit studio, just steps away from Daytona's victory lane. Inside, I'm Nicole Briscoe alongside the 1989 Sprint Cup Series champion Rusty Wallace, a current owner in the Sprint Cup Series, Mr. Brad Doherty. And sir, it is a pleasure to welcome you back, the one and the only.
You missed me.
Where you been?
You missed me, didn't you? He missed me. He missed me.
I knew you couldn't stay going long. Glad to have you back, man.
In case you don't know who that is, Ray Evernham. Couple times, couple championships, couple wins here in the Daytona 500. It's kind of like old home week for all of us because we're back for a new season. We're back in Daytona.
Oh, I'm excited to get back, too. And there's a lot of new things going on. I can't wait to see all the new colors, all the stuff. I mean, we've got new drivers out there. Kurt and Kyle in their own style cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about Cole Whitt? He's out there.
Yes, sir.
Sam Hornish, he's back for a full-time championship run.
Yep.
And Austin Dillon, man, that's the guy I'm watching right there. Richard Childress' grandson.
Good
It's going to
stuff.
be pretty exciting, man.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited about this new point system. But that the guys have to choose what series they're going to run in, because this race used to be about discovering talent, bringing people from all over America to come because they have a shot. Now, with this new point system, again, where the guys got to choose, it's not just about the Cup guys. It's giving those guys, those young guys, stars from all over America, drivers and owners, a shot.
Yeah, kind of like the old Permatex 300 days.
Exactly.
Guys used to come
Old-time
from
racing,
Yeah, that's
About
great
building.
stuff. But I'll tell you, what we have to realize today is, yes, it is the Daytona 500 weekend. But for these guys and gals in the Nationwide Series, this is the biggest event of the year for these folks. It's a great opportunity to showcase your skills. You have to showcase those skills. And for guys like Sam Hornish and Elliott Sadler, it's a great stepping stone back to the Cup Series. And I tell you, if you can win this race, it would be a great
It's
first
the
step.
biggest stage of the year for the Nationwide
Absolutely.
Series. So, hey,
Yes.
I hear you.
But he said it. He said it. Opportunity. Is there another driver in this series that has taken advantage, made the most of her opportunity. Danica Patrick is starting on pole, and if you look at the first 5 rows of today's race, there is an interesting mix of the stars, the future of the series, and those who are looking for an opportunity. But Danica, oh my, the week that she has had getting to this point, and really, Brad, starting in the duel, her qualifying race for the Daytona 500, and that huge hit.
Without question, she has showed great resiliency. She has bounced back from, like you say, a horrific hit that we saw in the duel race this past weekend. You're going to see Jamie McMurray and Kevin Harvick up high drafting. Jamie's going to slide down to the middle of the racetrack, trying to get his car straightened out as they come off the corner. And when he does that, Ray, he gets into Eric Almirola.
He does. When he moves Almirola's car over, Almirola moves over about a half a lane, hits Danica's car on the right front wheel, turns the wheel to the left, and sends her into the safer barrier at high speed.
Oh, guys, look at this. She hit the right side of the car. She did not hit driver's side first. If she would have done that, it would have really been a bad situation. Man, look, she got her hands up. Big crash. She's okay, but boy, it really made all of us nervous.
A violent hit. She walked away from that, and then the next day, she got back in the car for Nationwide Series qualifying. And look what she does. She puts the 7 on pole.
I mean, I think this is remarkable. It shows that this young lady can focus no matter what the situation is. She is a true race car driver, without question. Male, female, whatever. She's great.
A significant moment for her, a significant moment for this series, and we'll talk more about and to Danica Patrick coming up in just a little bit. We have just a little bit to talk about today. Just a tiny little bit. Sprint Cup Series practice just wrapped up, so the Nationwide Series cars are heading on out to the grid to get ready for this race. And as you all know, Danica Patrick, we know her from her history-making days in the IndyCar Series when she made her name known at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But now here she is, ready for this next chapter in her life, and she says she's all in. So are the Busch brothers. But what does Kurt Busch have to prove in 2012, especially after his upheaval of an offseason? And then we'll get to know some of the new faces in new places with very familiar looks, because the Dillon family is bringing back the 3. What better place to start than where it all began?
Only the rarest of pillars stand firmly on a foundation of sand, for sand is fickle. Individual grains are loose and free in the ocean breeze or are swept away with the tide. But packed hard by pressure, sand molds as solid as stone, confirming Big Bill France's vision that Daytona's beach would provide the foundation on which he would create NASCAR. Daytona's legend evokes visions of spring break bikini beauties and Harley-clad bikers. And its racetrack wields a checkered flag so powerful, it propels he who captures it directly into immortality.
Am I dreaming right now?
Or in an instant, history becomes heartbreak. And therefore, Daytona's Beach is the ultimate destination point for NASCAR fans. Here, the cadence of 43 handcrafted steel chariots marching is your pulse. The roar of 200,000 breathless brethren your heartbeat. And so every February, fans from the farthest reaches of this great NASCAR nation load up their dreams and make the pilgrimage. Daytona marks a new beginning, an empty canvas with infinite possibility. No one has dipped his brush, no one is ahead, no one behind. All are equal in status and in opportunity.
1, 2, 3, chow time!
The same goes for us, the fans. With the dawn of every season, the longest, coldest, most excruciatingly dormant months of our year are over. And we burst like spring's first bud with the boundless hope of excellence. So to that hope, I raise my glass to you, Daytona. Cheers.
Every season brings a wave of change. New faces move in, familiar faces move on. Some fight to step up.
There is the new leader in qualifying, Danica Patrick.
Others fight to merely survive change.
Check this out. That sea of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. One of the coolest scenes you'll see anywhere.
They're ready.
Fans getting in for a few minutes of track time, but I can't help but wonder when I'm looking at those fans, wondering how many of them have gear that no longer applies, because how many changes can possibly be made in a little more than 90 days? Drivers, crew chiefs, sponsors, all across the board. You need a roadmap to figure out all that has gone on. A roadmap for our Marty Smith to figure this one out.
Silly season is a high-stakes game of musical chairs. Rarely does the tune transform the NASCAR garage like it did last year. It all started with Casey Kane's move to the 5 car. When Kane signed to drive the 5, he was driving the 9. After that, naturally came the 4 before the 5. Now, the guy that made the 9 and the 4 so fast, crew chief Kenny Francis, must do the same for the 5. While Kane was in the 9, then the 4, Mark Martin was in the 5. He's now in Michael Waltrip's number 55 car. Teaming with Martin is Clint Boyer in the 15. That left Richard Childress's 33 open and effectively closed. RCR is now a 3-car team with 2 new crew chiefs. With Martin and Boyer in his stable, Michael Waltrip sent David Ruderman packing. Goodbye 00. Rudy lands in Tommy Baldwin's 10 car for 26 races. The other 10 in the 10 belong to Danica Patrick. She'll also run the full nationwide slate in the 7, teaming with Cole Witt in the 88. That car was Eric Almirola's before he jumped to Richard Petty's 43 Cup car. That 43 was A.J. Allmendinger. He's gone to the 22 that was Kurt Busch's before he unceremoniously mutually parted ways with Penske. Busch lands in Phoenix Racing's 51 Cup car. He'll also run its nationwide car at times. And when he's not in that car, he'll run little brother Kyle's 54 nationwide car. Busch's crew chief on the 22, Steve Addington, is now on the 14 with Tony Stewart. Stewart's former crew chief on the 14, Darian Grubb, moves to the 11 with Denny Hamlin. And Greg Zipadelli, who was with Stewart at Joe Gibbs Racing, but inherited Joey Logano when Stewart left, is now back with Stewart to crew chief Danica Patrick in the 10. Now, David Reagan's in the 34. He was in the 6 until the 6 ran out of money. When the music started, Brian Vickers was in the 83. When it stopped, he was out of a ride altogether. And you wonder why they call it silly season.
Ooh, if you're confused, don't worry. So are we. It takes a while to figure out all the different colors and numbers and everything like that. And what happens in the Sprint Cup Series very much affects what happens in the Nationwide Series. Kevin Harvick, Inc. no longer exists. So Elliott Sadler is now part of the Richard Childress Racing program. His teammate this year is Austin Dillon. It's the brothers Busch in the 54 car for Kyle Busch Motorsports. Kyle will not run a single race this season in the 18 for Joe Gibbs Racing. Kurt, by the way, today is actually in the 1 car. Remember, earlier when we said Danica Patrick all in this series, well, so is Sam Hornish Jr. You'll see him each and every race this year in the 12 car. And it will be a very interesting and competitive race this season for the title of Rookie of the Year. You're going to hear names tossed around like Austin Dillon, Cole Witt, and Brad Sweet, who, by the way, isn't even in the race today because he's sharing that ride with Casey Kane. So if I've just confused you, don't worry, because clearly these guys are also confused as well. But like we said earlier, it's an opportunity. We've got these rookies in the field, and it's going to be a very compelling battle for who wins that title.
It will be big time, and I mean, there's some special candidates out there. What about Austin Dillon, Richard Childress' grandson, driving the number 3 car? This guy was so fast in the Truck Series last year, winning the championship, doing incredible things behind the wheel. Now he's in this nationwide car. I really expect him to be the guy to beat. I think he's going to win, and I think he can win the championship. I think the kid is that good.
Wow.
And I think so, too. I really do. But one of the guys I've got my eye on is a little bit further back. You just saw him on screen there. Brad Sweet. He's only going to run a part-time schedule, sharing a car with Casey Kane. But he's Casey Kane's protege. Drivers recognize talent. Casey's been bringing this kid along, been good in a lot of different types of cars. What I like about him, though, is whatever he's lacking, he makes up with commitment and hard work. Good, hard-working kid. I'm going to keep an eye on him.
Which reminds you of who?
He reminds me of Mark Martin because he's just so physically fit. He's a little bit short, but he's just got that determination. He's got that swagger. You know, when Mark walks, he's got that swagger. Yep. This kid's a lot like him.
Love the work ethic of the kid. But the guy for me is someone that when you talk to the veterans in the garage, they say he has the it factor, and that's Cole Witt. His name is on the edge of everyone's lips in the series because
Cole Witt has
he has it. He has that intangible thing that makes him a little bit different than everyone else and will give him a platform to be successful. But he has to go out and do it. You look at his resume, though. He has the karting championships, USAC National Midget Champion, the youngest ever in the history of that sport. So he really has a lot on his plate that he brings to the table. The thing I admire the most, though, is Dale Earnhardt Jr. giving this young man this opportunity. If we think about Jr., we don't give him enough credit for throwing the rope back over the fence and helping these young people like a Brad Keselowski. I think Cole Witt is in the same situation that Brad Keselowski was a few years ago.
I tell you what, Brad, that's a pretty catchy name, too, Cole Witt. I kind of like that. That sounds cool.
The opposite end of this rookie conversation are the guys in the field who have the most experience. Guys like Elliott Sadler, Sam Hornish Jr., a champion in his own right in the IndyCar series. But Sadler last year, he finished runner-up in the championship. He didn't win races. There was like this but attached to him all season long. Now he's got a new season, a new chance.
Well, yeah, Elliott Sadler drove for me. Love Elliott Sadler, did a great job for me. Obviously the most experienced, very talented, has got a great ride in the Richard Childress Racing stables. The questions that have been surrounding Elliott are sometimes confidence and commitment.
Yeah, and that's no secret. You know, Elliott's in this series because he came out of the Cup Series here. Is there the focus there? Does he have too many other ancillary interests and those types of things? I think he worked really hard last year in making himself more aggressive race car driver, being more positive and being more confident. I think Elliott Sadler can do it at the Cup level, but he still has to prove that he can win races and win a championship at the nationwide level.
Other interests, like he has a family, like he has
he
hunting.
Loves to hunt. He's got, his family's in the car business. He's got a lot of business interests, which we all have. So that becomes the question when you're not as successful as someone thinks you should be. I think Elliott has everything to be a successful Cup driver, but he's got to prove it.
Well, the other guy is Sam Hornish Jr. We saw him get to victory lane last year in Phoenix, and I know you really like him.
I am big on Sam Hornish Jr. I really am. 3-time IndyCar champion. Look, he came to the Cup Series. He didn't have the success. He was out for a while. Now he's full-time back in Roger Penske's nationwide car, going for the championship. Now here's a guy who has no other interest except racing, 100% focused. It will not surprise me if he wins this championship. I mean, I talk about Austin Dillon being so good. We got a big field, no doubt about that. But this guy right here, Sam Hornish, very, very focused.
This guy,
no other interest, Brad.
This guy won the Indy 500.
Right.
All right. The biggest race on the planet.
Yeah.
And last year, he wins a nationwide race at Phoenix, and I watch him cry in victory lane. That tells me something's burning inside this guy's gut, I like that. He wants it bad.
And the difference with him is he's kind of been here before. He's made his mistakes. He was in the Cup Series. He made his mistakes. And you said he knows what not to do this time around.
He does, and he is very serious about making it in NASCAR. He has, now again, like you said, Rusty, 3-time IndyCar champion, won the Indy 500, was willing to back up and take a part-time deal just to stay here in NASCAR. This is important to him.
He's very good. He's very, very good.
What will be interesting to see is the importance that other drivers place on this season, and you know who I'm talking about here. We're talking about the guy who will split time between the 1 and the 54. The fans are still coming in part to see what Kurt Busch does this season, because Kurt says he wants to have fun again. But does fun translate to a lowering of the expectations for Kurt Busch? We'll talk about that. Plus, Danica Patrick, the popular, the confident, the megastar, opens up about throwing it all away for something she's never done before and admits to asking one question: do I deserve this? That's next. Coverage from Daytona brought to you by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear has learned making tires for the proving grounds of NASCAR inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. There is no denying the popularity of one Danica Patrick. All you need to do is walk by her merchandise trailer on any given day, any given race. It's the saying, if you build it, they will come, and in this case, they will spend. She is a mega star, something that began in 2005 when she first showed up at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and made her presence known. Fast forward a few years, Danica's now 29 and ready for a new chapter in her life and in her career, and she wants you to know she's in it to win it.
For 2012, I've kind of got a little motto that goes something like, take what you want. And that's what I'm going to do this year. It's the attitude. Getting into NASCAR full-time was not just one decision kind of a thing, and it wasn't a one-step process. It was done over time. And that was to answer lots of questions. Do I want to throw away everything I know to start over? And you can't just say yes to that without knowing that that other alternative is something that you want to do. The decision to do NASCAR was because I love driving these cars. Whenever I'm getting into a stock car, I'm a little bit more excited for some reason. I feel like I can tap into the more aggressive side that I had in me when I was younger. There's the whole fun factor of not only having the protection of the fenders, but the use of the fenders. Being able to bump on people and nose your way into things, I mean, that's fun. I approach every driver with respect from the start, and we'll go race fair, and if that's the way it stays, then that's the way it'll always stay, I think.
There's trouble, Danica Patrick, hard into the inside wall.
If they want to test the waters a little bit, then my job is to give back what they've just given to me. How am I going to do it differently now compared to perhaps what I have in the past? And for me, I think it's going to come from the attitude of the people around me and getting them to want the same thing that I want. I just really like the feeling of setting a goal and accomplishing it. I don't think I can put a number on what I'm hoping for. When I first started 2 years ago, it was top 20. Now it's top 10. Then hopefully it'll be top 5, and then it'll be victory lane. I would love to win. Of course I would. Do I think it's realistic? Yeah, I do. I do. I don't think it's going to be all kittens and rainbows from here on out because I do it every weekend. It's still going to be really hard. Sometimes I feel like, I don't know, do I deserve it? Should I be getting this? And the attitude is that if it's what I want, I should just take it. And I don't have to worry if someone thinks I should or not. I want it, so I'm going to take it.
She commands the attention of fans wherever she is, wherever her car is. Look at the people that are constantly surrounding her. And I will tell you this, she's done a lot of first, a lot of best for a woman. She won an IndyCar Series race in 2008. She was the first woman to lead the Indianapolis 500, but she has said this week, for her, it's not about being the best girl. She wants to be the best, period. And while I love that she said it's not always going to be kittens and rainbows, the thing I think that stood out to me the most is she says, I'm throwing away everything that I have ever known to do this.
Yeah, and I agree with her about being the best girl. We need to get over that. She's a really good race car driver. The thing I want to see, my opinion, I want to see her stay in this Nationwide Series for a couple of seasons and run the entire schedule. I think that helps her have the building blocks and the foundation to move on and be successful. Look, jumping into that Cup car, that 3,500-pound race car with 800 horsepower is not an easy task. These are the best race car drivers in the world, and I don't want to see her wash out at that level because it's so difficult.
I can tell you one thing. She has picked the right racetrack to come to. Daytona is the right racetrack to come to for her. Here's why. The track has got a lot of grip. Handling's not going to be the issue. She can take her raw talent and get out there and guide that car around.
And she's got talent. She's very talented.
Yes. She's got good people to draft with. This should be one of the easier tracks for her to run, in my opinion. Now, look.
And she's been here a lot, too.
Yes, you're right. She gets to Phoenix, Bristol, stuff like that's going to get a lot tougher. Daytona is a great place for her to shine right off the bat.
Brad, I don't think she needs to spend a couple years. I think that they have been on a plan. They brought her in part-time nationwide, take her to full-time nationwide with part-time Cup. She's going to learn the Cup stuff this year, get a good run in nationwide. She was getting better at the end of the year. You know, one of the toughest things that it was always with a woman driver is to get a crew that believes in them. You heard her say it. They got to believe and want the same things that she does. Tony Uri does that for her. They've got a good relationship. They're going to be competitive. I think she'll be ready to make the move to full-time Cup next year.
See, I don't, and I'll tell you why. And for me, it's expectations. Can she do it? Yes, she can do it. But what are the expectations? I think she's really talented. Will she be able to move to that next level and win races? That's what we're trying to. That's what I'm talking about.
So I'm not winning races in Cup is big now. But the thing about she's challenged. She challenged for wins at the end of the nationwide series. I think she's going to win a race this year. You know, top 4, top 5s, top 10s at the end of last year. She was delivering on the performance.
She has definitely got the hype right now. She's got to perform. But you know what? Danica knows that. She knows she's got to lay the numbers on the board.
She has
knows
to.
If she's going to keep this hype going, she's got to do it.
Sam Hornish, Juan Paul,
But
all these
they
open wheel
did
guys come over
jump
and
directly into it, though. Those guys jumped directly into the Cup Series. They didn't have a
That's
full year in the Nationwide Series, which she's doing.
More than 1 year, I think. I think she needs 2.
We did ask you, do you think Danica will not win a race, but win a plate race this year? And the results, I'm sorry, I think this is fascinating. 78% of you say no, she's not going to win a restrictor plate race. And Ray, I just heard you say it. You think she's going to win, but you're just not here either.
I agree with them. 78% no. Probably not going to be on a plate race. But I think her win is going to come on a 1.5-mile track. She likes to go fast.
She's talented.
You drive an Indy car, you go fast.
You think it's going to be a circumstance, maybe a fuel mileage thing or something like that,
Doesn't
right?
matter. We've all won them on fuel mileage.
We were talking earlier about that.
Get the
That's how Tony
experience,
Stewart won
Danica.
the
You're gonna be
championship
fine.
last year.
Experience.
Hey,
right.
coming up next, Kurt Busch, obviously huge upheaval of a season last year. What happens when a former champion gets a career wake-up call?
Stupidest built race cars I've ever driven in my whole life. Have we ever thought about making our cars faster? On the back straightaway, Einstein.
Sometimes when I give an interview or I watch myself in certain situations, it's like, really? I said that? I'm my own worst enemy sometimes.
Nothing strips an athlete bare like a fall from grace.
After 6 seasons, Kurt Busch and Penske Racing have parted ways.
Pushed from victory lane into exile. Is it the end of a career or the beginning of redemption?
Kurt will race in the Nationwide Series, one of the many changes this year, with his little brother Kyle. New sponsor, new car number, they will be in the 54. Kurt, though, today is in the 1, and from the time we left Homestead Miami Speedway to the time we showed up here in Daytona, about 90 days had gone by. Just 3 months. But no one, no driver, no crew chief, no team had undergone more changes, both personally and professionally, than Kurt Busch did in that same time frame. Here once again is our Marty Smith.
We're a bunch of idiots going around with no idea what we're supposed to do. Stupidest built race cars I've ever driven in my whole life. It's hard to work in this hard. I mean, every single race I gotta drive over my head. I'm so right now I can't see straight.
I didn't say that tonight.
You did?
Did not.
Okay, I'll pull the transcript.
Thank you.
When you look in the mirror, are you comfortable with what you see?
Yes and no. Sometimes when I give an interview or I watch myself in certain situations, it's like, really? I said that? There's a lot of fans that when they get to meet me personally, they're like, wow, you're not such a bad guy. You know, I'm my own worst enemy sometimes.
I don't think we needed to hit on the back straightaway, Einstein. On the mother. Excellent job, Pat. Excellent job.
A lot of drivers get mad on the radio, and they take it out on their teams and whatnot. But sometimes with you, it gets personal. Why does it get personal?
For me, I see a lot of other drivers that have, you know, what they do on the radio. But man, I just keep drawing attention back to myself more and more and more. It's like, it goes on everywhere. When you're in that car, it's just a whole different feel. Nobody knows what it's like to drive these things at 200 miles an hour. But there's the greats that have figured out how to harness, you know, their attitudes or their desire to win.
Your latest and probably most infamous episode was at Miami with Dr. Jerry Punch. What happened there?
All right, here we are, finished 11th in points because the transmission blew up. Then Punch goes, hey, did you hear that parts of your transmission went through Tony Stewart's grill? I went, no effing way. I go, you gotta be kidding me. You know, I'm thinking I killed Stewart's championship hopes. And the camera guy puts the camera right to my face and the red light's not even on. I'm like, no, we don't need to have this going on right now. Of course, I wasn't that polite while I was doing all this.
That just makes me feel a lot better, Doctor. Can you get this out of my face? Why can't we tape this? Well, I'd like to do it live too 10 minutes ago. Thank you.
I was just bent on all of the circumstances that landed on my shoulder at that one moment. What I did was wrong. I didn't need to do that at all. I needed to get myself under control and manage that interview with respect. And, you know, talking with Dr. Punch afterwards, you know, he accepted my apology. You know, it's just the way it worked out.
This is the most pathetic racing I've ever seen. Have we ever thought about making our cars faster? Ooh, let's turn down a meltdown on the radio. Ooh.
After 6 seasons, Kurt Busch and Penske Racing have parted ways.
I know even in your press release, it said mutually parted ways. Did you mutually part ways or were you fired?
No, we mutually parted ways. I mean, think about this. Why was I having some radio meltdowns? Well, it's because of the pressure to perform on the inside. Roger gave me everything that I needed to win. When we couldn't get to the victory lane or to win or to be consistent, it started hurting me inside because, man, we couldn't get it to click. And I'm like, we're missing this, this, and this. And Roger's like, no, you're missing this, this, and this. I'm like, well, we're just not seeing it.
Why is Phoenix racing right? Why is that the right choice for you?
I've got my history, the past, and this is just about moving forward with working with a group of guys, jumping in right there with them. I mean, this is old school fun racing. This is an opportunity to go, hey, you know, here's a budgeted team on how they have to operate. What happens when you throw in a championship caliber driver?
It's a clean slate. You're basically starting over. What do you hope to achieve by starting over?
At the end of the day, is it accumulating cash? Is it having fun in life? It's probably both. But to me, with working with a sports psychologist, he's like, what can you do to take a step back, still have that intensity in the car, but to show, you know, improvement with your own self?
What have you learned about yourself in working with sports psychologists?
That I'm trying to do too much. That I was just all over the map with making sure that this was done or that was done, and that I don't need to be a perfectionist in all areas. It was just when you have this intensity to win and things didn't go well at the end of the day, I'd blow up or do this or say that, and it's like, wait a minute, you can't keep hurting yourself like that. This opportunity this year with James Finch, you know, the pressure's there, but, you know, it's just it's a nice pace change for me.
How do you hope to react to adversity in the future?
I'm going to conquer it. I want to challenge myself to be able to conquer it because I'm one that doesn't shy away from challenges.
Is that something you think you're capable of?
Yeah,
I mean, I feel, you know,
it's
kind of like we've seen this story before.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a recurring theme thing. Why is now the time that you feel comfortable that you can change?
It needs to be now. I'm 33 years old. You know, there was the past championship that I have. There's the responsibility of being a past champion that you have to represent the sport better. And man, I've messed up enough and drug you know, NASCAR's name into the mud a few times, and there's still time now to make a difference.
Well, he will start 14th in today's race. He says he wants to have fun this season. He says that he's changed. He says we'll see a new Kurt Busch this season. Do you buy it?
The only thing that I believe in that, and I thought he was really honest about, is that the expectations were so overwhelming at Penske. Well, now the expectations are very low, so we may see somewhat of a different Kurt Busch. But overall, there's no way. Leopard doesn't change his spot. Whenever it gets really tight, that aggressive, almost angry Kurt Busch will manifest itself. And I don't know if that's a bad thing overall, but I don't think overall he's going to change because that's who he is.
That angry Kurt Busch has never been a problem in Daytona. It's always...
As time goes on.
But the angry Kurt Busch, Leopard doesn't change his spot.
Nope.
Your car on? Will you hire him?
Absolutely.
All right, yeah. Why?
Absolutely.
Why?
He's a great race car driver.
Okay.
Bottom line, he's
but
a great race car
part of the issue is that just because he's a great race driver, people have got to get him help. I agree, and I know Kurt. I've had dinner with him.
Sure.
I believe he's sincere, but I also believe he's got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Being in a lower pressure deal, something like what James Finch's deal is perfect for him. Expectations lower, pressure's lower. He's got to get a handle on his emotions. He's got a lot of winning left in him, but he's not going to do it until he can.
Why does he have to change, though? Why does he have to
First of
change?
all,
Because we put a camera on him all the time?
Look, you hit the nail on the head when you said James Finch. I don't know if anybody out there knows James Finch like I know James Finch. This guy is a really cool guy. But he's a guy that's not going to take any bull. He's the type of guy that if Kurt Busch messes up, he will slug him.
Yeah.
He will rip him out of the car and put him on the ground. I'm telling you, I know James Finch real well.
Right.
He's a fun guy, makes fast race cars. He's got the Hendrick engines, Hendrick cars, all this stuff. I expect Kurt Busch to run really good, but he's going to keep him in line, though.
You asked the question, why does he have to change?
Right. Yeah.
We're talking a lot about teams that can't find funding. They can't put sponsors on their team.
People sponsor him.
Richard Petty Motorsports said they couldn't sell him to get him in the 43.
I don't think Richard Petty Motorsports would hire him because of the connection with Jack Roush. That's my opinion. That's bull. There's people that will sponsor this guy, just like there's people who sponsor his brother last year. There are people that will sponsor people who will win races. You can't tell me differently.
I don't believe that somebody will stick with you no matter how much you win, because we saw his brother get put out of a car last year.
Yeah.
In this world, in today's day and age,
got put out of a car that has the same sponsor as we start a new year.
Right.
Yeah, but Brad, you got to do it on the track. You got to do it on the track and off the track nowadays. It's a different world, man. It really is.
You win races, you will have a ride in this sport. I'll guarantee you that.
How about some basketball? Like that transition? Tonight, a full day of college hoops on ESPN ends as Chris Joseph and the Big East leading #2 Syracuse Orange visit rival UConn in Saturday primetime, presented by DirecTV on ESPN at 9 Eastern. Coverage begins with College Game Day, covered by State Farm at 8 Eastern. And coming up next, driver intros. All of our 43 drivers are out there getting ready to take the first green flag of the season in this 2012 NASCAR Nationwide Series season. And also, new faces in some familiar places. He's a rookie in this series, but Austin Dillon's number is anything but new. Why Dillon says the 3 is in his blood. That says NASCAR Countdown rolls on. I like this one. Where are we? Daytona Beach.
You guys need to go sit on the beach by yourself. I want my own beach.
That's fine.
The number 3 means so much to so many. Some say it belongs to Junior Johnson. Most say it belongs to Dale. To Austin Dillon, it belongs to all of the above. But above them all, it belongs to Pop Pop.
It is a very familiar sight, not just in Daytona, but any racetrack you go to. But Dillon, they say blood is thicker than water. And while so many of us think of the 3 in their Earnhardt name, for the Childress and Dillon families, the 3 is in their blood. That goes for the driver of the 3 in the Nationwide Series and the driver of the 3 in the Truck Series. 2 Dillons, 2 brothers, just one number.
My name is Ty Dillon. Austin Dillon is my big brother. Richard Childress is our grandfather. And this is a story of our family and the number 3.
There's 3s of all kinds, but there's only one stylized 3, and Dale Earnhardt made it famous, and Dale Earnhardt was part of our family.
Number 3, to me, it's history. It's a winning number. It's the number that I started running with.
There's the winner right there, Austin Dillon. Get out and wave at the crowd.
You know him as Richard Childress, but my brother and I, we have a different name for him.
Pop Pop. Just called him ever since I was a baby, and that's been his name ever since.
Pop Pop's gonna tell everybody something. Look at my grandson. He is fast.
I can still remember them running around their little carts, and ever since they were just little babies, they called me Pop Pop.
Do like Pop Pop said. Do like Pop Pop said.
I'm so proud of being able to be linked to him and just have fun with him, and he's still my grandfather. He'll support me whatever I'm doing.
Like the time Pop Pop chose to attend Austin's 2002 Little League World Series game instead of being trackside for his team's nationwide race.
I just told them if they made it up here, I would come up and watch them play.
Just a grandfather out having fun with his grandson.
He wasn't going to miss that. He has not missed anything of importance like that for the boys. He's always been there.
Pop has always been there for us, like the time we decided we wanted to race.
When Ty turned 13, he called me and he said, Pop, you said if we ever wanted to go racing, just give you a call. And he said, Austin, I want to go racing.
We were just sitting there watching a TV show with these small-bodied race cars or bandoleros, and we wanted to join in on the fun, and ever since that day, we've been racing.
Probably the most expensive phone call I've ever had. I said, what numbers are y'all wanting to put on them? And Austin told me, he said, I want the 3. And I said, Austin, that was Dale's number. It's a really famous number. And he said, but it was your number.
For me, it was a no-brainer. It was the family's number, and he said, okay. And he didn't turn me down, and we went, and we've run it ever since.
There's a very proud grandfather. Now his grandson grabs the championship in 2011.
Never will forget standing up on top of the podium and looking down at the 3 truck and seeing the 3 on that truck, and it brought back memories of winning the championships with Dale with a 3, and I know how proud Dale would be that Austin won the championship with that 3 on his truck.
Checkered flag. Dale Earnhardt finally is a champion of the Daytona 500.
When Dale won the Daytona 500, both these kids were maybe 8 and 10. There they are standing on the podium with Dale Earnhardt holding up the number 1. Dale was their hero.
I remember my grandmother coming and scooping us up and dragging us to Victory Lane, and when we got there, I realized that I was part of the history right then and there. It's probably one of the happiest days of our family's whole life.
And now, our family's legacy will be carried on by Austin. It has been 379 races since the 3 car has run full-time in the Nationwide Series. A new streak will begin February 25th at Daytona by my older brother.
I love running the number. It brings a lot of pressure, but it's fun, and my grandfather's comfortable with it right now.
Dale and I, some conversations we had about who we were going to put in the 3 car. Dale wanted someone that could go out and win championships with that 3. To see Austin driving the 3 today and overlooking all of us will be Dale Earnhardt Sr., and I'm going to tell you, he'll be smiling down.
And there it is, the 3. You'll see it on the track today. So that's the car. That's the driver, Austin Dillon, and take a look at who he's talking to. Earnhardt, the 3, and the guy who made the 3 famous, or at least his father. So Dillon is more than just a driver. As you heard, he played in Little League World Series baseball in 2002. Though he was named the Rookie of the Year in 2010 in the Truck Series, and as we just saw, he did win the Truck Series championship last year.
Yes, he did win the Truck Championship last year, and don't ever underestimate his talent. This kid is really good. He's at that race shop every single day. He understands the setups of these cars. He understands aerodynamics. He understands how to drive. And he's been put in many different situations, and he shined every single time. We watched him last year in the Nationwide Series, and every run, Brad, he always run good. I expect real big things out of him. And Richard Childress, I'll tell you what, he's going to put big motors under the hood. It's blood.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very, very serious about this. I think the kid's going to do great.
A lot of changes to RCR, but some changes with Turner Motorsports as well. They came in last year, guns blazing. This year, 1 car.
That's absolutely the best thing that I think Turner Motorsports could do. Last year, I thought they were going to just win all these races by volume because they had so many cars in the field. But this is good. It's a good consolidated effort to try to get Justin Allgaier to Victory Lane to win a championship. In his other car, he's going to have Casey Kane in there from time to time. That'll be a great opportunity maybe to bring some sponsorship dollars to that race team.
Well, what about Joe Gibbs Racing?
Yeah, that's
no
pretty
Kyle
confusing.
Busch, no Jason Radcliffe.
Yeah, right. They got one guy going for the Drivers' Championship. That's Brian Scott. It's looked like their attention towards the Nationwide Series has kind of dwindled a bit. They're really focused on their Cup effort, which is a good thing. But it looks to me like the Nationwide stuff took a little bit of a back burner.
You will also notice a big difference with Roush Fenway Racing. Carl Edwards, gone, not in the series anymore. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is the only full-time driver committed to a championship. Trevor Bayne only has a 3-race commitment right now.
I think, you know, you look at in past years, Jack Roush has done a tremendous job supporting the other series in NASCAR, you know, with the Truck Series and what he's done in the Nationwide Series. But right now, it's a business case. Jack's a smart guy. It's a funding issue. They have one Cup team go away because it was not funded for a full year. There's several races that neither one of those Nationwide cars are funded. So I think Jack's looking at it like, look, I've got to focus on my Cup stuff, and hopefully the Nationwide stuff will take care of itself. The sponsors might come.
I talked to him, actually. I talked to Jack Roush, and Jack says, Rusty, I put a ton of money in this thing, personal money. I just can't do it no longer.
That's right.
It has been interesting to listen to Trevor Bay in, you know, the Speed Weeks, because he said when he won the Daytona 500 last year, he did not think part-time would be part of his vocabulary when it came to the Sprint Cup Series or the Nationwide Series. Jamie Little?
Well, he's hoping that all changes. But, Trevor, it's hard to believe Victory Lane just over to the left of us 1 year ago. Your life changed forever. What's it like for you coming back this time around?
Well, I'm excited to be here, and I know where Victory Lane is now, so I can get there if we win again. But that's the goal today. We're just ready to go back it up. Last time we were here at Daytona, we had some really great runs. Nationwide, we finished 10th. We won the Cup race, and now we're just trying to live up to it. It's kind of hard to do that when you have the expectations, but we've got a great race car, qualified way better than I thought we would. The Roush Fenway guys worked so hard. Within a month, they put this whole program together for us to come to Daytona. Roush Shades gave us great engines, and now we're just going to take that 60 to the front, I guess.
All right, he'll start on the front row next to Danica Patrick. Nicole?
Thank you very much. Fans, remember, check out Race Buddy. It's enhanced coverage for select Nationwide Series races with more cameras than ever. Log on to NASCARNationwideSeries.com/Race Buddy. And we have more cameras than ever down on the track as we get ready for this first NASCAR Nationwide Series race of this season. The cars are lined up, and coming up, they'll take the green flag, and we'll talk about championship. That guy, he won the championship last year. Is he the driver to beat this year? I know someone who disagrees with that statement. We'll be back in just a second. Welcome back to Daytona. It's where the sport began. It's where we kick off each and every season. It's where Danica Patrick and Sam Hornish Jr. are kicking off the next chapter of their careers. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., however, is hoping to continue on the road that his career took last season. He was the NASCAR Nationwide Series champion. Today he starts 10th. And with success breeds expectations. It also makes him a bit of a target.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. now to start 2011. Boy, he's been good. The promise fulfilled today at Iowa. Mississippi's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is a winner.
He's got a problem. Stenhouse has been hit hard from behind by Edwards. It's going to be Stenhouse crossing the line with the race win. That's what I'm talking about, baby.
He has stood up to those pressures, keeping himself inside the top 5 and top 10.
Here's the moment that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and all his fans have been waiting for.
You are the champ. Yeah!
Your 2011 NASCAR Nationwide Series champion, Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
What a memorable season it was a year ago. Now, Ricky, as the Nationwide Series champion, how have your expectations changed as you come into this season?
Our expectations haven't really changed at all. We came into this year, or last year, thinking we could win the championship. This year, we think we can do the same thing. We felt like we gave a lot of points away at the beginning of last year, so we're going to try to change that. Our Kellogg's Rice Krispie Treats, Pop-Tarts, Mustangs been fast all weekend, and watch the countdown show, and you know they don't say a word about us. So you know that fuels us a little bit more for going for this championship again.
Going to earn some love today, Ricky Stenhouse in the 6. Dave Burns.
Last year, Elliott Sadler's season started with a wreck here at Daytona and then a finish at the end of the year, which was second in the championship. Over the offseason, have you guys been able to hopefully correct both things, a great Daytona start and win the championship?
Well, I mean, that's our number one goal, is take what we learned from last year, good and bad, and try to go for that championship. And it all starts here today at Daytona. Everybody at RCR has done a great job preparing our race team, not only getting ready for here, but also the next 4 or 5 races. But we got a lot of people here from One Main Financial. We're really pumped up about this year. We got a lot of good things that happened to us this winter. Going to work with my teammate Austin Dillon today and see if we can run the entire race, all 300 miles. That's very, very important here at Daytona. Get off to a good start, put your best foot forward.
All right, good luck today.
Thanks, guys.
How about that? Stenhouse feeling a little bit ignored.
I'm glad he's watching the show.
Feeling a little bit maybe he'll like this. Sports Nation, we asked you who we thought were going to win the championship this year. Well, the someone else is winning. But of the drivers named, at least he's getting some love there.
Absolutely, man. We didn't mean to leave Ricky out. Come on, Ricky. We love you, baby.
Now, if you three could just pull out your crystal balls for me, that would be greatly appreciated, because I'm asking you to look ahead 10 months, 35 races from now, to pick the champion in 2012. Who is it going to be?
I think it's going to be Sam Hornish, in my opinion.
Wow.
This guy has got an incredible car. He's incredibly focused. He's got Roger Penske behind him.
Yeah.
And I can see championship road all over front of him. Look, he's failed a couple times in other types of racing. He was a 3-time IndyCar champion. When I'm talking failing in the Cup stuff, not real bad.
Sure.
Right. Lost that ride. Yeah. Now he's got another chance. Man, he knows how to do it right. I'm really picking Hornish. I think he can do it. But boy, he's going to have some challenges.
Well, he has a lot to prove, and that's the direction I'm going to go. The other guy who has the most to prove at this level is Elliott Sadler. He came so close last year. He got off to a horrible start here at Daytona and had some bad luck. If he can avoid that, I think Elliott Sadler's the guy that can win this championship.
Well, I'm going with 51% other, because last year, Ricky Stenhouse last year was in other. And you know what? You guys might be overlooking somebody else. I might be overlooking somebody else. I'm going to tell you what, 51% of the people say other. I'm going to agree with them.
We bring you back, and that's the best you can do.
Other.
Is give me other.
Other. Other's fast, man.
You know how hard it is to make a prediction? It's very, very tough.
Hey, you made a prediction the other day. I asked you who you thought was going to do well in the duels, and guess what you said? You said Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt Jr.
They
finished
pretty close.
first and second, so I might start paying attention to you now.
Okay.
As you can see, the grid getting very busy, and there is your pole sitter, Danica Patrick. Guess what? We'll talk to her. Coming up next, we'll also talk to that guy, a couple of popular drivers.
Most accessible venue in all of sports, baby, NASCAR.
We'll be right back.
Daytona. No single name says so much, all on its own. History and mystery, triumph and tragedy. No names and nobility. There's so much magic in this race, but even more in this place.
When I see Daytona, when I get to Daytona, I think Earnhardt, I think Petty. Who do you think of?
Oh, I think of Cale Yarborough also.
I think
a guy like that. Yeah.
I think David Pearson and Jack Ingram.
Buddy Baker won the first race I ever saw here.
A couple of good stats with those guys. So much has changed. And so much has changed really just between last year and this year. These cars, it is so much different out there. And that, on top of everything else, is going to be a challenge today.
It's going to be a challenge. There's a lot of different things going on. All the cooling systems, all those type of things have been changed around and moved around. I talked to Tony Uri Jr. earlier. He said, hey, Rusty, so this stuff is running bumper to bumper, about a couple laps, all you can do. We're going to be offset drafting the whole entire time right now. We're going to have to keep these cars up front, keep them cool.
Yeah.
So let's figure out how this is actually going to work, because Tim Brewer is in the ESPN Tech Garage. Offset drafting. Explain, please, sir.
My biggest issue today, Nicole, is the driver. When he gets focused on the car in front of him, that water temperature goes up. He's not paying attention to the gauge. We've got another backstop right here. This is the valve where the water, with the overflow, it'll spray up the windshield. It'll get his attention. But just like Rusty said, when you're sitting there focused on the guy in front of you, drafting, you're not getting any airflow to the radiator. When they move this area up, that's where all the fast air is at down here. You're not getting any here. So what you have to do, move the car over about a half a car width. That's going to induce more airflow into the radiator right here, and it's going to cool it. But for what's going on with the rear of the car, we're going to let Ray Abraham talk about that.
Thanks there, Tim. And you're right, they moved the front bumper up, but they also moved the rear bumper down to block that air, so as it's coming out from under that car, it doesn't get up in the radiator and cool that engine, so these guys can't do the tandem drafting. The other thing that does is create pressure, takes away downforce, makes the car a little bit harder to drive in traffic.
That bumper is huge.
It is a giant bumper.
Huge.
Giant.
You know, when you're talking about restrictor plate racing and how it's done, the names like Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt Jr. come to mind. So I was trying to find some guys to get a different opinion. So I talked to Kevin Harvick and I talked to Kyle Busch about what makes them successful at places like this. And Kevin Harvick said it's just simple. He says you have to be ultra aggressive. When that hole opens, you have to be ready to go right now. You have to continue to gain momentum throughout the day. He wants to be up front racing, not in the back. Kyle Busch was a little different. He says, I know Kevin's very aggressive. Kyle said, though, I'm looking 2 moves ahead. I may not take that first move, but I'm darn sure going to take the second move. And both of these guys said it's like pulling a string. You have to keep it taut. You have to keep that momentum all day long, because once you lose it or lose the draft, you're out to lunch.
You know who starts fourth? Dale Earnhardt Jr. I wonder what he is going to do today. And for more on that, Jamie Little is standing by with Junior.
Well, with 6 Nationwide Series wins here at Daytona, he's one of the most experienced drivers in the field. But when it comes to your 2 drivers, Danica Patrick, Colwitt, very little experience. What's your plan with them today? Will you work with them, or are they on their own?
No, I'll work with them. I'll work with anybody, especially my teammates. Hopefully they can work together some. Me and Danica are going to be trying to get together early on this restart, but you know, we really can't plan anything from there on out past that. But you know, I just hope they have a good day, and you know, hopefully we can win this race in the TaxSlayer Chevy and have them guys right up there close behind us.
All right, this is the first of 4 races we'll see Dale Earnhardt Jr. this year. Doc?
Well, Danica, time and again, you've beaten the odds in your career to make the headlines. And the team told me a moment ago they're very confident. I know you've thought about it. Maybe you visualized it. But how do you win this race today?
Well, that's going to be about staying out of trouble, of course. It's going to be about keeping partners or a partner the whole time. And before qualifying, I asked Tony Jr. how he felt, and he's like, I think we got a good shot here. So if he feels good, I feel good. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little nervous. But whenever the car is further up the grid, I feel like I've got more to let down if I don't do well. So I'm going to try and do as best as I can and be smooth and be smart, have good stops, and hopefully it puts us up front at the end.
Good luck and have some fun.
Thanks a lot.
Let's go to Vince Welch.
With Sam Hornish Jr., 13 races last season, but it's a full-time gig this year. Congratulations on that. How do you develop a strategy for a plate race?
I think, you know, all strategies are kind of out the window for most of the time here. Last year I was going to go to the back and hang out, ended up getting collected as soon as we got to the back. So, you know, I think we're just going to try to run up as close as we can to the front, stay around our teammate, and just do the best that we can. Just really excited to be out here, be in the Nationwide Series. Nationwide Insurance, you know, does a great thing by sponsoring this series. It's a great series. It allows me to race on Saturdays and spend most of my Sundays with the girls. And just super happy that Alliance Truck Parts and the Worth Group stepped up to make this a full-time season for us, and hoping to do some big things for them.
Enjoying some time with his daughter Addison before they get things going here. Let's go back to Nicole.
Thank you very much. You know, I like how, did you notice this? Danica picking up a slight accent? A little bit of a southern drawl, perhaps?
Working on it. Hanging out in Daytona.
So you can't plan anything for this race. You can try, but you can't plan. The cars are different. The temperature is different today than it was yesterday when they were out there. So what do you like?
It's going to take experience, and the guy with the most experience is Tony Stewart, in my opinion. He's won the last 4 nationwide races here at Daytona. He's our past Cup champion. He won the 150s the other day. He's got a lot of momentum on his side. I'd be crazy not to pick Stewart right now.
He's decent. But I'm going to tell you what, we're in Daytona, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard this young man named Dale Junebug Earnhardt Jr., who is starting 4th. He is the winner of this race today, Jack.
He is.
Yes, sir.
Well, this is not only Daytona, it is a nationwide race.
True.
And the man that kind of was upset at us for not mentioning him is ready to win the big deal. Ricky Stenhouse goes to victory lane today. Love for Ricky.
In 120 laps, we'll find out if any of these yahoos are right.
There he is.
Because coming up next, we go green on the season.
Today, the NASCAR Nationwide Series stars of tomorrow travel in the tracks of those who paved the way. They race for the trophy, but the real prize is to be added to the Daytona roll call. This is the place where stories are written, where one moment becomes timeless, and youth becomes legend. This is the place where names are made. This is Daytona.
It's such a special place, Daytona. The history, the amazing racing, the fantastic finishes. When these drivers and fans leave today, what will it be that has them all talking? Might revolve around the 2 drivers we update now to the front of the field and Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, Alan, Danica Patrick has made history and headlines throughout her professional career. But let's face it, folks, a win here today would be monumental. Now, ironically, the two men who would benefit the most by her going to victory lane with this epic win, her two Nationwide and Sprint Cup car owners, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Tony Stewart, those are the two guys who have the biggest chance of keeping her out of victory lane. So here's the question, folks. In the final laps, do Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Tony Stewart push her to the win, or do they pass her for the win? I think I know the answer. Well, I'll find out in 300 miles. Dave Burns.
Dr. Punch, Tony Stewart just told me that he is going to stick with Joey Logano today unless everything falls apart, and he might end up helping Danica. That deal came together when he was at a snowmobile event earlier this year. Joey and Tony got together and said, you got a partner? No, I'm an odd man out. How about you? I'm an odd man out too. So they're going to work together today to try to get Tony Stewart a 7th and record-tying nationwide win here at Daytona. Alan?
Dave, thank you. And as we close in on the start, the crowd on pit road will all doff their caps for today's opening ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your hats as the Naval Air Station Jacksonville Color Guard present our nation's colors. Please remain standing as Reverend John Long of the 3rd from Tubman King Community Church offers today's invocation.
Let us pray. Gracious and glorious God, we thank you for the magnificent beauty of this day. And we thank you most especially for gifting us with minds to create and spirits to compete. Bless now, we pray, all that we have set our minds to do this day. Keep the drivers and crews alert and safe so that they display as they display their skills, we may cheer the spectacular human achievement. And then return us to our homes to witness your majesty. This we ask in the name that is above all other names, and let us all together say, Amen.
Finishing up his 5th studio album in Nashville and here to help us all get our country on is recording artist Chris Cagle performing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
The preseason preparations, the workouts and strategy sessions, the daydreaming about what it would be like to win at Daytona is over. Now the drivers buckle in and the engines fire. We go racing to start the 2012 season next.
NASCAR Nationwide Series at Daytona, presented by GoDaddy.com. Domains, websites, and everything in between. And in part by TireRack.com. Research, buy, deliver, install. Tire Rack.
Daytona Beach, a beautiful 26-mile stretch of sand along Florida's East Coast, a place that's had a love affair with the automobile for over a century. Whether it was racing on the beach back in the day or on the high banks of the Speedway, fans and drivers know when it's February, Daytona is the place to be. Today, the tradition of opening the new season continues at the World Center of Racing, who'll claim the coveted prize of a winner's trophy from Daytona. ESPN is live at the Daytona International Speedway, where the engines will fire and 43 drivers set off on a high-speed 300-mile journey towards victory in just moments. This race will be about drivers working together in the draft, many along team lines. For more, here's Vince Welch.
A year ago, Trevor Bayne stunned the racing world when he won the Daytona 500. Today, he will look to team up with his teammate and the reigning Nationwide Series champion, Ricky Stenhouse, and they'll look to draft their way to the front and eventually to victory lane. Now, a Bayne or Stenhouse win today would be huge for this team, because for all of its success, Roush Fenway has never won a nationwide race at Daytona. Jamie Little?
Well, when it comes to Daytona, oftentimes experienced drivers look for other experienced drivers to work with, teammate or not. But that's not the case today with Elliott Sadler. He'll be working with his teammate. He's a rookie, Austin Dillon. The two have been working together all weekend long. In fact, they've turned the most laps working on drafting this weekend. Elliott Sadler being very patient, acting as a teacher. Expect more of that today between the 2 and 3 cars. They'll hook up and work together all day long. Let's go upstairs to Alan Bestwick.
Jamie, thanks. If the 2 or 3 cars are to win today, they're going to have to outrun the 5 car, being driven by Dale Earnhardt Jr., a 6-time winner in Nationwide Series competition at Daytona in this division. Jr., very strong car, starts in row number 2. If he should be the one to take the checkered flag today, the roar will be thunderous from these grandstands. The sport's most popular driver is going to be a factor in deciding the outcome of this one. So you see the safety equipment being cinched up. The drivers all getting ready to go. The pit crews beginning to move away from the cars and back toward their stall, getting in position for their part in this race, a crucial one it is as well. A mistake on pit road could separate you from the pack in the draft and might be the difference between winning and losing in this race. And now, as they finish those final moments of cinching up the gear, the dignitaries are gathered at the start-finish line along pit road, ready to give those 4 famous words.
Ladies and gentlemen, here to deliver the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome State of Florida Lieutenant Governor Jennifer Carroll, President COPD Foundation John W. Walsh, Executive Director COPD Foundation David Behringer, COPD Foundation Board Member Lawrence D. Stern, and President Withers Worldwide Transportation Systems Chip Withers.
Gentlemen, drivers, start your engines!
Go ahead and fire it up. I sure do, baby. What are you talking about, the other radio? You don't have me on the main channel? Bruce, to your right on pit road. What car is that? 39 behind us.
Finally, it's time to go racing at Daytona. And when the cars begin the parade and pace laps in a moment, we'll talk with our ESPN in-race reporter today, the man who's won this race 4 straight times in 6 of the last 7 years, Tony Stewart. Is it going to be a smoke show again today?
Checkered flag has waved for Tony Stewart.
Oh,
here we go. Tony Stewart, back-to-back Daytona wins. Tony Stewart, the pole sitter, will come down and win the season opener at Daytona. For the 4th time, Tony Stewart is a winner at Daytona. And a crash. While they spin, coming down the front straightaway, it's going to be all Tony Stewart.
White flag is out. Here we go. Who's going to win it at Daytona?
Stewart and Castle are on the move. They are side by side for the lead.
At the stripe, Tony Stewart does it. This was oh so close.
4 in a row, baby.
For 3 months, race teams have spent every waking hour building. Engines, cars, chemistry, hope. Now those hours have run out. The countdown is into its final ticks.
The adrenaline is flowing for drivers, teams, and fans as it's almost time for the green flag to wave at Daytona. It'll be somewhat cool for today's race. Now, I know for those of you dealing with winter, 61 degrees sounds pretty good right about now, but it was 88 here yesterday, and that 27-degree drop in temperature is welcomed by the teams as they try to keep engines cool, something we'll talk about a little more in just a moment. And welcome to our season-long coverage of the NASCAR Nationwide Series on ESPN. Alan Bestwick with three-time Daytona 500 winner Dale Jarrett and two-time champion crew chief Andy Petrie. Racing here at Daytona the last couple of years has mostly been about the two-car tandem draft. One car literally pushing another car all the way around the speedway. Fans said they didn't like it very much, so NASCAR went about making changes to the rules for the cars over the offseason to try and return the racing to more of the pack-style racing fans saw here in the past. Example, this last Saturday night in the Budweiser shootout for the Sprint Cup Series cars. DJ, what are we going to see today?
Well, and I think we're going to see a combination of both, because all the rules that they made in the Sprint Cup side to those cars don't apply here in the Nationwide Series. You can still see we have big spoilers on the back, which means big holes in the air. That gives them the opportunity to do that. The cooling systems are different also, which will allow some pushing, but I'm not sure exactly how much. It's going to be exciting from the driver cockpit. They're going to be extremely busy today, regardless of which it may turn out to be.
But those cooling systems have been compromised by these new rules. And as a crew chief, I really hate this because you got to let the driver have so much responsibility in keeping that car cool and making sure you have an engine at the end of this race. So I'll be a little worried about that, and also, just the distraction of having to watch that water temp all day long.
For the driver, gives him something to do while he's at 190 miles an hour. And speaking of drivers, the field for this race is a very interesting mix of those with a lot of experience at Daytona and some with little or none. And some of those drivers with little or no experience here have got pretty strong race cars. What's it mean for the day?
Well, I think it's going to mean for an exciting show that we're going to see. Obviously, you always like experience here, because when it gets down to time to win, you want that. But some of these drivers with no start, by lap 100, 250 miles into this thing, you should have learned something by then. Take that experience that you have and put it to good use towards the end of this.
And these Cup stars have so much experience. I expect them to be the ones at the front when this thing is over. But last night in the Truck Series race, we saw a stone-cold Daytona rookie win the race. First time he was ever here, John King. That can happen today if those rookies can make it to the finish.
A driver kind of right in the middle of that experience list is on the pole for this race, Danica Patrick. If you're her crew chief, Tony Eury Jr., Andy, what are your instructions to her as this race gets ready to start?
Well, the biggest thing for this team is to stay on the lead lap and stay in contention to the end of the race. Don't take any chances. You have good instinct. She's done a good job at these restrictor plate races. And take care of the engine. Pay attention to that and try to stay out of trouble. That's what I'd be telling.
And we heard the conversation before the race about trying to get together with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the draft. Well, as the pole sitter, Patrick has the option to choose the outside lane. She has just done so on the pace lap, so she'll be lined up right in front of Earnhardt Jr. in that 5 car for the start in the draft. Look at the starting lineup coming across the top of our screen. The 43 drivers in the field for today's race, headed by Patrick in the 7 car. You'll see as this list goes by that mix of names you are very familiar with and maybe not so familiar with as you look at the starting lineup. When you get to the 7th starting spot, you'll get to our in-race reporter, the man who's trying for his 5th straight win in this race today. Let's dial up Tony Stewart, DJ.
Tony Stewart, Dale Jarrett, the ESPN. You have a copy?
Yes, sir.
Hey, champ, thanks for talking with us again today. Let's get right to it. We've seen highlights over the last 7 years. You've won 6 of these races. The last 4, you've won in different cars for different teams, different aero packages. The one constant is the man behind the steering wheel. Can you let us in on your recipe for success here?
Yeah, I get with great race teams. I've been real lucky. I've been able to drive for Kevin and Delana Harvick and, Rick Hendrick and Joe Gibbs and Richard Childress, and just that's 4 great organizations right there, and they give me great crew chiefs. I got a great one this weekend with Ernie Cope again, and just really, really proud to be a part of Oreo's 100th anniversary this weekend. So I don't know. We seem to get ourselves in the right place at the right time, and it's a lot of this is luck of just being in the right scenarios. But you got to have good race cars, and I've had good people that have helped push us to the lead of these things. So they know we're going to get there. It's just a matter of figuring out how and when and doing it at the right time.
Tony, Once again this year, we're letting your fans have questions. Jermaine from Noonan, Georgia asked at the white flag lap if Danica is leading the race, going for her first NASCAR win, and you're the one pushing her, would you hang with her or go for the win?
Well, today she's not my teammate, so my job is to still go out and win this race, and I'm driving for Richard Childress, and that's all he's told me. He hadn't told me to worry about scratching this thing or anything like that. He said just go get me a win. So it just depends on the scenario. I mean, if it's just two of us and we're way out front, then it's between her and I. But, you know, the way these two-car packs have worked, I don't know that you're going to have – if you're second, you may not have that luxury of trying to make a move. And so it's about being smart. And, you know, it's kind of like I love using my buddy Peyton Manning as a comparison. I mean, you have to call an audible all the time and assess the situation. So we'll try to do that and make the calculated decision right at the end.
All right, Tony, thanks for talking with us. You have a great day, and we'll talk to you later in the race.
All right, pal. Thank you.
A look at our ESPN high-definition onboard cameras for today's race. From the driver starting first to a pair of six-time winners here to the defending series champ and the defending Daytona 500 winner. A very quick break. We come back for the green flag and the start of the NASCAR Nationwide Series season from Daytona in just a moment. As it has every year since the formation of the NASCAR Nationwide Series 30 years ago, the campaign begins at Daytona with 300 miles on the high banks of this famed speedway, the field coming through turns 3 and 4 to the green flag. Storylines today, the enormous talent in this field, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Tony Stewart, Brad Keselowski, Casey Kane, the young drivers in this field, some getting their first taste of Daytona, and the lady on pole position, Danica Patrick, who's chosen the outside lane. A lot of folks think she can win today here at Daytona. 2.5-mile track, 120 laps for the 300 miles. The NASCAR Nationwide Series season is underway. Green flag at Daytona. It is Patrick in the green 7 and Earnhardt Jr. in the red 5 in that tandem draft, pushing to the lead. Here come the Roush Fenway Fords to the outside in turn 3. That's Stenhouse and Bain in those two cars, now up to 3rd and 4th. Excuse me, that's Sadler there in with Bain.
I was wondering who Trevor Bain was going to get with there early on, because he was kind of the odd man out in this scenario.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of different partnerships early in this race, because sometimes these guys are not near each other that they plan to run with. Would be surprised to see some unlikely pairings.
On these restarts and things, we're going to see some more pack racing, which is what NASCAR was trying to make happen.
Oh, that's tight when they're 3 wide like that off turn 2. The blue car is Stenhouse that tried to break out of the draft and run to the front. He's getting shuffled back into the field. Look at that. How many laps can these leaders stay hooked up in the tandem draft?
Yeah, that's the question right now, Alan. It's been a couple of laps now. They've been in this configuration, and you can see they broke away from this pack, but they are going to have to switch at some point.
I think the one thing I've seen Dale Jr. do behind Danica is he's breathing his car a little bit more. That's allowed these others to catch up, but they may have to switch before this front two.
For the lead, Patrick Earnhardt Jr. challenged. Here's Trevor Bain in the 60 to the outside with Elliott Sadler's assistance. The defending Daytona 500 winner goes out in front.
Now you see Elliott Sadler offsetting his car, trying to get some air to the nose. That's going to cost him a little bit of time. You can see there, Danica and Junior are catching them.
12 is Sam Hornish Jr. And pushing Hornish Tony Stewart in the 33.
He had the momentum.
And the only one of these three pairs that thought that they may work together at some point in time was Dale Jr. and Danica Patrick. The others just happened to get together on the start of this race.
Now, you just saw Hornish and Stewart. You'll hear the swap called a lot today.
Yeah, that was a perfect way to execute that right there. At the perfect place on the track, and you can see that those two veterans really know how to get it done. That was as about an efficient swap as you can see.
Changing up front, Elliott Sadler to the lead. Bain will drop in behind him. They have to do that every so often so that the car that was running in behind, that's beginning to run a little warm, can get that clean air in the radiator.
And as you can see, that the way they swapped with Stewart and Hornish, they were able to take the lead because their swap was a little more efficient. You can see them really pulling away now.
Underdog to cheer for today. Look at that white 52 car. That is Reed Sorensen, shuffled out in the silly season swapping of rides, driving for the underdog and underfunded Jimmy Means racing team today in that 52.
You see Austin Dillon there right behind Reed Sorensen. His plan partner is Elliott Sadler. He's up front now running with Trevor Bain, so it's going to be a while before they can get together.
Yeah, and Austin started on Elliott's bumper, but he wasn't able to keep up on the start of that, so they got separated. See another great drafter, Mike Wallace in the 01. He won't have any problem finding a partner here today because he does such a terrific job at these races. 4 wide, though.
30 is James Busher, 31 Justin Allgaier, teammates for Turner Motorsports, while Patrick and Earnhardt Jr. work together still. And coming up behind them is Kurt Busch in the 1 car. He's got drafting help from Casey Kane.
I talked to Kurt Busch. He really planned to run with Kyle Busch all day, so we'll look for that to happen later.
Whoa,
Danica's in the wall a little bit.
Shrek might have scuffed the wall with the right side of that Chevy. One thing that makes this tandem drafting tricky in these Nationwide Series cars, the bumpers are not straight. They're kind of rounded on the cars.
Yeah, it does make it more tricky, and as you move across the back of that with your front bumper, you can find yourself getting you or your partner in serious trouble.
I talked about this before the race started, but having to watch that water temp, that's the first time Danica's had to push, has been in that pushing position, and she had to divide some attention inside that cockpit to look at that water temp gauge, and they're in a lot of heavy traffic, and that's the danger.
Up front, Hornish in the 12 on Tony Stewart for the lead. Here comes Kurt Busch in the 1. Look at the run he's got.
With basically no help. He was getting a little bit from Casey Kane there, but it pushed him all the way to Tony Stewart's bumper. I think we're going to see a lot of this today, where last year we saw these drivers and teams get hooked up and stay primarily with who they started with, and that was going to be it. I think we're going to see it all over the board here today.
Hornish is either waiting for Brad Keselowski, his Penske teammate in the 22, or he had to get out from behind Stewart because his car was getting too warm. But when they separated in that draft, Stewart got lucky enough to pick up Kurt Busch, who was charging forward, and Hornish went back.
And Danica is now the odd driver out of this.
Yeah, and when you've won 4 straight races, you don't have a hard time getting somebody on your bumper like Tony Stewart.
Yeah. Oh, look, Tony's available.
So far, Danica hasn't got anyone to draft with.
But she's not far from having Cole Witt, who's a teammate of hers, to get on her bumper.
38 is Casey Kane now together with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and racing for the lead.
So they're not teammates in this series, but they are on the Sprint Cup side.
Six cars, 2x2 up front, and an angry pack right behind in hot pursuit. Very early in the going in the NASCAR Nationwide Series race at Daytona, presented by GoDaddy.com. Back live, Daytona International Speedway, the NASCAR Nationwide Series on ESPN, presented by GoDaddy.com. A hotly contested race for the front in the early going of this event. That is Denny Hamlin driving the Joe Gibbs Racing 18, pushed by the defending series champ Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the 6. They've just run to the front of that inside lane.
See the 43 there, Michael Annette, kind of by himself now. He and Danica Patrick, she pushed him all the way up into the top 5, but now they've gotten separated. See, here comes Tony Stewart to get on Danica's bumper. See if they can move forward, which I'm sure they will in a hurry.
I'm thinking they'll be leading here in a lap or two.
Yeah, last year we saw Tony Stewart work with Danica, and they did a great job getting to the front. I think that's where Danica got a lot of her experience in this style of racing, was from Tony.
Trevor Bayne outside for the lead in the 60, green and white car. Elliott Sadler still locked on his rear bumper.
What a great combination of tandem and pack racing that we're seeing here.
Yeah, it really is. You see Kurt Busch basically with no partner, able to stay right in the thick of it for the lead. He's right there behind Elliott Sadler in the 2.
25 cars in that lead pack. Kurt Busch in the 1 had planned to run with his brother Kyle in that 54, but right now they're nowhere near each other. Kyle's back in 31st place. That's David Reagan in the 27 he's working with. Reagan had to drop to the rear of the field on the pace laps for missing the drivers' meeting.
Well, you don't want to miss the first one.
Now, of course, Reagan, most recent winner in the Sprint Cup Series here, back last July, getting his first victory.
Bayne to the point. Peakin 3 wide. Stenhouse down low.
It came time to make a switch there. See if they can get hooked back up. Yeah, that was pretty seamless right there.
Nice. And to the outside for the race lead, Sam Hornish Jr. pushed by Brad Keselowski. Little Penske power there working together.
Yeah, we expected this to be a pretty potent combination when these two drivers were able to finally get hooked up. They've made it happen now, and you can see them stretching it out.
Tell you who's got a fast car in that group, Mike Bliss, that 44 car. He's digging on the outside.
And these races in the draft at Daytona and Talladega always give some of the underdogs the chance to run up front and have a good result. And Bliss in that 44 had a great qualifying effort. That's Joe Nemechek in the black 87. Second car in the outside lane, who is pushing Bliss in the draft now. Another very experienced driver at Daytona, underfunded compared to some of the powerhouse teams, but doing a lot with a little.
Kenny Wallace, you see up there in the mix of this too, and I'll bring up Michael Annette again. This team at Richard Petty Motorsports, this nationwide team, was just put together. They didn't have a lot of time to make this happen, but performing very well.
What happened there with Junior and Kurt Busch?
Looked like they needed to swap, and looked like they got split apart.
Yeah.
I'm like you, Dale. I'm seeing a big mixture of pack racing and tandem racing. I think this is about the best combination.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily, who they plan to get hooked up with. They're just looking for somebody to get on their bumper or find a bumper to get attached to.
Austin Dillon driving for Richard Childress Racing in that 3 car just before the start of the race, getting some instructions about what to do in this tandem draft.
Hey, Austin, when you're tandem here as the leader, you say everything you're thinking. If you catch a pack and you want to back off, say check up. If you want to go to the right, say we're going to the top. If you want to go to the bottom, say we're going to the bottom. Just say that, and that way that'll be relaying the whole time. You know what I mean? Brett will be hearing that. Elliott will be hearing it. So just say what you're thinking, okay?
Yeah, the spotters and drivers can't be cross-talking to other teams, but they can. The spotters can wear a scanner. They'll hear when Austin says that he's doing something, the spotter for Elliott Sadler, somebody will hear that, and they can relay it to the driver through the spotter.
You can see that Austin wasn't letting off the throttle any at all, but was getting bypassed by a lot of cars.
Sam Hornish Jr., Indy 500 winner. Out in front, Brad Keselowski, former champion in this series, running second. Third place, closely contested, it's Mike Bliss in the 44, Joe Nemechek in the 87. And to their outside, Michael Annette in the Richard Petty Motorsports 43, and Kurt Busch in the 1.
We've made a lot of, we've talked a lot about the cooling system, how they changed that and try to break apart these tandems. But I think the communication part of this, of not letting the teams communicate with other teams, drivers communicate with drivers, I think that has really helped more than anything. That's why we've seen so many pairings.
When they finish this lap, we will already be 50 miles into the 300 that compose today's event for the NASCAR Nationwide Series at Daytona. Tonight, great college hoops on ESPN. Chris Joseph and the Big East leading number 2, Syracuse Orange, visit rival Connecticut. And Saturday primetime presented by DirecTV. ESPN 9 Eastern. Coverage starts with College Game Day, covered by State Farm at 8 Eastern. Aerial coverage from Daytona today, provided by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear's learned, making tires for the proving grounds of NASCAR, inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. You're looking down from the blimp on the new leader at Daytona. The 44 is Mike Bliss. His tandem drafting partner is Joe Nemechek in the 87.
You can see they're working together real well. They passed Sam Hornish and Brad Keselowski. Mike Bliss in a Toyota. It was the highest qualifying Toyota motor in the field. That thing's running today.
It is running, and they've really separated themselves. They put about 10 or 12 car lengths, and everybody else kind of got caught up a little bit in some lap traffic that they have to negotiate here in the last 2 laps.
Bliss, the former Truck Series champion, been around the Sprint Cup Series, the Nationwide Series, the Truck Series for a long time. Nemechek, of course, ditto, former champion in this Nationwide Series and a 2-time winner at Daytona.
Yeah, they're fixing to have company, though.
Yeah, a guy that knows how to win here. Comes Dale Jr. hooked up with Kurt Busch.
I was thinking those two guys have run without swapping for a long time in that order.
Yeah, and to do that, it costs you 3 or 4 tenths a lap to offset the cars enough to keep the back car cool. And that's just enough for these other cars that, you know, they can swap around and then really line up and get a line nose to tail and make a lot more speed.
So Dale Earnhardt Jr. back to the point. Kurt Busch, his drafting partner in that one. Heard from Kurt Busch on NASCAR Countdown about why he's in the situation he's in, no longer with the powerhouse Penske team, and trying to rebuild basically his reputation and his career with James Finch in the one car. I love what Rusty had to say, by the way. Kurt gets out of line, James will take him outside.
Yeah, if you don't think Kurt Busch is a polarizing figure, you should have watched our Countdown show. It had our guys in uproar.
Now, we expected Kurt and his younger brother Kyle to draft together, but while Kurt's up there running in second place, Kyle is 23 seconds back in 29th place in that 54 car, Doc.
Yeah, not the plan they wanted to have work out early on, Alan. In fact, Kyle very frustrated about how poorly he qualified, starting 24th, and had no one to draft with when the race began. Got a half a lap behind, and now he's hooked up with David Reagan. In the last 3 or 4 laps, these two here, Kyle Busch, David Reagan, have run laps faster than the leaders. Kyle said, we'll be okay. We lost a lot of ground. We'll get that first pit stop and get caught up. Then he and the one car, brother Kurt, can hook up together. Kyle says he'll be fine.
All right, Doc, thanks. And while we were getting Doc's report, the lead changed hands. You saw Mike Bliss and Joe Nemechek steam back to the point.
Yeah, kind of the same move they made a while ago to get to the front. When 2 cars were swapping, Bliss just drove between them and put a lot of distance then.
Well, it looks like they're committed to, you know, this offset to keep Joe's car cool. And it does cost them some speed, but in the long run, they don't have to swap as much, so they can just kind of hang out there, running just like this. And, you know, they might lose the lead for a lap or 2, but they'll get it back.
First call of the day of the number 20, Joey Logano, hooked up in the draft with Casey Kane in that 38, and Logano rumbles up to the 5th position as Kurt Busch challenges for the lead.
Logano knows how to win, as he won here in the Nationwide Series back in July.
Tell you what, performance of the day so far, 44-87. No matter how the afternoon turns out, that's been fun to watch.
Yeah, if they keep this up, the afternoon's going to turn out in their favor.
Side by side for the lead. Kurt Busch in the 1, Dale Jr. in the 5, Bliss in the 44, Nemechek in the 87, and here come Tony Stewart and Danica Patrick, 33 and 7. And by the way, first round of pit stops as few as 5 laps away. 81 car dropping to the inside to let the leaders go by. That's Jason Bowles.
Oh, got a contact. I think right there is what makes these cars, you know, they have more rear spoiler. They're a little more stable than the Sprint Cup cars. That probably would have been a wreck if it had been in the Cup Series. Caution.
Caution is out.
Got a car smoking off of turn number 4. Potentially dropping some fluid from that Jason Bowles car.
Definitely having an engine problem. That what you see there, that smoke coming out of the exhaust pipe, is really indicative of losing all of the coolant out of the system and running it hot, and that's kind of what happens in the end.
See the NASCAR official looking under the back end of the car to see if there's fluid leaking from it or not. And if they determine there is a reason not to let that car back onto the racetrack, they'll do just that.
I think maybe he thought that he had a vibration there, or did have a vibration that maybe come from the tires. They were changing tires, but I think it's a little more serious than that.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to change tires and get rid of that smoke out of the exhaust pipe.
So it's going to be a minute before the pace car gathers up the field and they open the pit lane for the opening round of stops. We're under the first caution today here at Daytona in the NASCAR Nationwide Series season opener. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the race leader. He started behind Danica Patrick. They pulled away into the front in the early going. First caution out at Daytona. The pace car brings the field to the opening of pit road, and the leaders will all come in for stops a quarter of the distance into this race. Dave?
Tony Stewart being shown second. They have been calling for 2 left side tires and full of fuel for Tony Stewart. Vince.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., bottom left of the screen. Earnhardt says the car is fine. His Cup crew is pitting this team. 2 cans of fuel and 4 tires. Doc?
Top right, Kurt Busch sipping at a donut on the right side of the car, but 4 tires, fuel, no changes whatsoever. Car is fine, so be careful leaving. Bottom right, Danica Patrick, 4 tires. The car running a little bit hot in traffic. They said when you leave pit road, pull straight out. Pull straight out of pit road. Don't try to pull out, then try to beat them off. Danica down and away.
Kurt Busch first off the pit lane. Tony Stewart had a little trouble getting going out of his pit stall and cost him a little bit of time. Not much, but a little bit. The front tire carrier for Tony Stewart, J.D. Holcomb, is carrying our over-the-wall reporter camera today. Let's watch him at work. Wrapping up the first caution of today's NASCAR Nationwide Series season opener at Daytona. Kurt Busch is leading. Our in-race reporter, Tony Stewart, is second.
Hey, Tony, Dale Jarrett, you got us?
Yeah, bud.
Were you expecting this kind of tandem and pack racing combined in this race today?
No, I can't say that I did. I thought for sure we'd all be paired up the whole time, but that's what I was just telling Ernie and the guys. Just it's been kind of fun to sit here and see how long I can get away with just running by myself here. We've been really easy on the engine. We've been pretty easy on the bumpers so far, so it's kind of fun to see what you can get away with and what you can't right now. But you know, at the end of it, it's going to come down to it. But it's nice to be able to, at the early stage of the race right now, be able to do a combination of both and try to take care of it as much as you can.
Is the lack of radio communication, where last year you had the opportunity to talk among a lot of drivers, does that have anything to do with this?
It makes me a little more nervous, especially when I'm pushing. I don't know, you know, other than listening to Bob Jeffries, my spotter. I mean, that's my only way of knowing what's going on ahead of the car that I'm pushing. But it's hard to read their. You got to kind of somewhat read their minds when they're running here and trying to figure out where they're going to go.
All right, it's making for a great show. Good luck. Thanks for talking.
Thank you, bud.
1 to go. Signal from the starter stand. We'll restart next time by. Let's check up on a couple of follow-up stories. Dr. Jerry Bunch.
Let me show you why Kyle Busch spent a little extra time on pit road. Kyle noticed on the racetrack the right side window was vibrating, and the reason was, see this lower latch right here on my right hand? The latch is bent and the window would not lock shut. So the window was vibrating in the car. Kyle looked over in the traffic and saw the window vibrating and told the crews he was coming down pit road. It took extra time to put a backup window in and make sure it latches shut. So how about that for Kyle dodging a bullet here early on, guys?
All right, Doc, thanks for the update there. Kyle back in 31st position.
Yeah, this might help him a little bit. That's definitely the right direction. And arrow-wise, is have that window sealed up. So it might help him on this restart.
Like he doesn't have enough other things going on out there. He's having to pay attention to everything. That's what you get as an owner driver now.
Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart, Joey Logano, Casey Kane, Cole Witt, Michael Annett, Brad Keselowski, Danica Patrick. Your top 8. A look at Patrick's pit stop a moment ago. Watch the right front, please.
Yeah, you see right there, he reversed the gun. That happens a lot. I've changed a lot of tires. I've had that happen to me. You know, as you're hitting the lug nuts, that slide hammer will move and actually start tightening the nuts, and you realize it and have to switch. Did a pretty good job of recovery.
That first pit stop of the year, stuff like that.
Just jitters, it's just part of the deal.
Quick thought on what you've seen so far in the racing.
Oh, fantastic racing, just incredible. I don't know that we could have a better scenario than seeing a combination of this racing.
Yeah, I think the weather's played in our favor too. Having these cooler temperatures has kept the motors cool and allowed these drivers to really put on a show.
And I think we're seeing that anybody could possibly win this race today. That's what I like most about it.
19 car Taylor Malsum, the Lucky Dog free pass, back on the lead lap in 32nd place. Side by side for the restart, Tony Stewart in the blue car, Kurt Busch in the black and white one. Casey Kane pushing Kurt Busch to the point. Joey Logano is lined up behind Tony Stewart. And Michael Annett in the 43 with Danica Patrick in the green and black 7. Oh, change of directions there. Annett's looking for a friend in the draft.
Yeah, and I think Danica's much more comfortable being the car in front, getting pushed. She really has adapted to that. She's done much a better job this year of being attached to someone's bumper, which is in that position. But I think she's much better in the other scenario. Now she's lost her partner, Sam Hornish.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to kill you. I mean, you see she's still able to stay up there, actually moving forward still. That's what I like about what I'm seeing today.
Like Danica's going to get some help from series champion Ricky Stenhouse there, going to get on their bumper. He has a fast car.
Interesting how the cars that are not quite nose to tail here are they're keeping up and even closing up.
Yeah, even better than that. I mean, see, Danica almost had to, I think she had to back out of the throttle right there in that situation.
Yeah, last year there would be a 7, 8, maybe even 10 mile per hour difference, and you couldn't even come close to hanging on.
Fascinating. It's really going to make the end of this one interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Tony Stewart to the point. 2 most recent race winners here at Daytona. Stewart last February, Logano last July. Look at the angry pack behind them.
Yeah, this is where it gets really tricky because you got a couple of guys here touching bumpers, and when they come together, you got 3 or 4 of them. The guy in the middle doesn't have much control.
Doesn't, and that tri-oval, it may not look like much of a turn, but your car gets probably more light in the back end through that part of the racetrack than anywhere else here.
You notice Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 5 back in the soup here. He was up front leading before. What happened on Junior's pit stop that got him back into the pack? Vince?
Well, Alan, the biggest issue is the fact that when he came on pit road, he had trouble finding his pit box.
Sorry about the sign, bud. We should have been better prepared and had a better sign for you. You got a lot of signs out there that are a whole lot better than that one. It sort of gets lost. It gets lost. 10-4, bud. My bad. I'll do a better job. We'll get you a hell of a sign next time.
And they promptly did make the change. They changed out the pit sign to reflect the sign that he uses on the Cup races. So it'll be a lot easier for him to see. As you said, it's the design in the background of the number that Junior likes to look for, and that's how he spots his pit box. They promptly made the sign. He said, no problem. Everything else is good.
Yeah, but I saw an 88 on that one. Let's hope Cole Witt doesn't stop at that pit box.
Yeah. 2nd to 16th on the pit stop from Junior. Try to dig his way back to the front. Tony Stewart, Joey Logano, Trevor Bayne, Brad Keselowski, and company here at Daytona. Looking down on the race at Daytona with our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear's learned making tires for the proving grounds of NASCAR inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. Kurt Busch to the point in the one car with Joe Nemechek's drafting help. It is getting hairy out here. Here comes Michael Annett with drafting help from Cole Witt. Look out. They got into a bad position there.
Could have been really bad. Cole Witt did a nice job there not turning that 43 around. He's going to have to be a little more mindful when he has somebody on his bumper. Got some smoke there in 1 and 2.
It is the 28 car. That's J.J. Yaley.
Yeah, looks like safe. It's coming out of the looks like it's coming out of the engine compartment. Thought it might be a tire.
And by the way, check out who's running 5th. Kyle Busch started 31st on the restart a little while ago. He's drafted his way all the way up and moving forward.
Yeah, he was literally a half lap down running back there with David Reagan, but the caution obviously brought him up, and he knows what to do now. Got that side window fixed.
I think that side window helped him. They put a new one in there, and he's driven straight to the front.
That mix of drivers we talked about before the race, those with lots of experience, Kurt Busch and Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kyle Busch, and then some of the younger guys like 43 Michael Annett, 88 Cole Witt, first nationwide start at Daytona for that 88 driver. 23 is Robert Richardson Jr. making a push toward the front.
If I was Joe Nemechek, I'd be getting a little nervous right now, though, because Kyle Busch is catching up with Kurt. We know they're going to get together, and I think Joe might be the odd man out, sitting there running second. Kyle's got to get there, though.
Some of those who were up front have been shuffled back into the pack. Danica Patrick's one.
I can't stress enough how blind we are when we're pushing. Anything that you can do, I know you can. You don't have to be afraid with me. I'll digest what I can and throw away the rest. So, yeah, it's pretty chaotic out here.
I guess.
Yeah, and that leads just what Tony Stewart talked to us about under caution, that not having that radio communication now, and how difficult it is being behind there and only having your spotter to help you.
Plenty good company back there. There's Elliott Sadler in the 2. He was up front contending for the lead earlier.
Uh-oh. Wow,
how was that not a wreck?
My gosh.
How was that not a wreck?
Luck?
Yeah, sometimes you just have to be lucky.
Just before this, you see Mike Wallace in 0-1. Him and Kenny were making a lot of headway going to the front.
I'm sure that was Robert Richardson Jr. that was sideways down in 1 and 2, and that could have taken out a lot of cars.
.43 is Annett, 23 is Richardson, 0-1 and 0-9 are the Wallace brothers, Mike and Kenny.
Oh, and that got Richardson had to jump out of the throttle right quick, and that'll turn these cars sideways. Tell you, Michael Annett's being very aggressive here.
Nice
in the first half of this race.
Save, Robert Richardson. There are so many things to be fascinated by in this race so far. People getting shuffled to the back, coming back to the front, the comparison between the tandem draft and the single draft.
Danica sideways.
Oh no, into the wall. Caution's out. Second yellow of the day. Comes out a little shy of the halfway mark in the race. It is Patrick with some pretty heavy damage after going into the wall in turn 3.
Sounded like she might have got a little more help than what she was wanting as she entered turn 3 there.
'88 car, her Junior Motorsports teammate Cole Witt was the one that was in the vicinity.
Yeah, she was fading back, though, and looking for some help from her teammate. It's one of the problems with this style of racing is when you try to get those cars connected, it can, you know, sometimes it can go bad.
Of course, Patrick going to run for the Nationwide Series Championship this year, so whatever the damage to that car, if it's repairable, they'll have to fix it and get back out there and finish as best they can. Every point counts when it comes to the end of the season.
Yeah, Danica knows that. That's why you see the frustration.
All right, right of the screen.
Yeah, that's I was talking about the tri-oval being a very loose part of the racetrack. Entering turns 1 and 3 too is where your car gets light. You just can't be bumping in these corners.
Second round of pit stops, Dave.
Denny Hamlin shown his 5th right now. Alan, they will take no tires. Did not hurt them coming in. Fuel only. Jamie.
The 87 and Joe Nemechek will take left sides this time. Took rights last time. They said, we'll outsmart him all day, Vince.
Tires looked great for Dale Jr., so fuel only and a fresh tear off, clean and away. Doc.
Bottom right, 2 right side tires. Whoa, coming out contact. Kyle Busch trying to come off of pit road. The 88 of Cole Witt trying to come in, and Witt goes around as Kyle Busch has contact leaving the pits after changing only 2 right side tires.
Turn around.
Always a danger when people are getting fuel only or just right side tires, and there are a lot of cars on the lead lap. Guys already leaving their pits when others are still coming in.
Yeah, it's almost the worst case scenario. I saw the 2-car Elliott Sadler basically stop and wait on Joe Nemechek to come out of his pit before he went in. We see the 2 cars still on pit road.
Yeah, Elliott had to make some evasive actions there when Danica spun, so I think he might have damaged the right side, maybe the splitter a little bit on his car. Kyle Busch will be back on pit road too.
Yeah, there's enough blame to go around on that one. So, you know, Kyle could have given him a little bit more space.
Yeah, I think the crew chief is usually the one calling you out. He needed to let Kyle know that there was someone coming there. You can't see out of these cars that well.
Second caution of the race. Not the season opener that Danica was hoping for. Trouble in turn number 3 and a wild ride for the driver of car 7. Some pretty heavy damage that'll take her car behind the wall. A lap away from the restart, today's NASCAR Nationwide Series race at Daytona. Coverage presented by GoDaddy.com, just shy of the halfway point. And wrapping up, caution number 2, brought out after some contact sent Danica Patrick into the wall in turn 3. You see she is climbing out of the car back in the garage area. Some pretty significant repairs needed to that machine. Fans, remember to check out Race Buddy. It's enhanced coverage for select NASCAR Nationwide Series races with more cameras than ever. Log on to NASCARNationwideSeries.com/RaceBuddy. Reed Sorensen, free pass on the caution, puts him in 30th place. There were some cars took a wave around as well to get back on the lead lap. Casey Roderick, Joey Gase, Danny Epland, and Eric McClure. That leaves us a total of 35, make it 36 cars on the lead lap. Kyle Busch with a late pit stop as well for repairs after that contact on the pit road we saw a minute ago. Also, some repairs for Elliott Sadler to the right side of his car.
Yeah, just like Dale said, he ran off the track and tore up the right side skirt. They came in and repaired that. Looks like he'll be fine.
Denny Hamlin leads him to the green. Front, Kurt Busch back to the point. Brad Keselowski in the outside lane leading that charge with help from Casey Kane.
See the brothers Wallace hooked up here, Kenny and Mike, see if they can get to the front with their two machines.
Oh, that is so tight. Front two have gotten away from the pack a little bit, but yes, nice run for the Wallace brothers. Kenny in the 09, Mike in the 01.
Yeah, just before the caution came out, they had been making some real ground coming up through the field together, working real well.
They both do an excellent job at this style of racing. Always have. Mike Wallace, of course, has a victory here in the Nationwide Series. Nice to see them both running up front.
Yeah, Kenny drove for me for a few years, and he was actually the one that was pushing Dale Earnhardt to his win at Talladega, his last win.
That was the end of the pack. We are waiting for Kyle Busch. He's in trouble.
Yeah, he got some damage coming out of the pits. I don't know if the damage is hurting that much, or did he just lose the draft because he was so far back on the restart.
The steam coming off the overflow from Mike Wallace's car. He's been behind brother Kenny. He's pushing there. Gonna need to breathe that one.
I think he was really wanting to get him up there and get him to the lead. Not sure it's going to happen here right now.
Yeah, this is what I worried about when we talked about before the race started, is that you put a lot of responsibility on the driver to take care of that engine. They can get carried away here. You see these two, they wanted to get to the lead. They were pushing each other. Mike may have pushed it a little too far.
And it's very easy to lose track of how many laps you're there, and he's wanting to stay right attached to the bumper. He doesn't have time to be looking down and seeing where that temperature gauge is.
3 wide in the middle, Michael Annett again. While up front, Denny Hamlin pushed by Joey Logano. The Joe Gibbs Racing teammates join the party for the lead. Kurt Busch in the 1, Earnhardt Jr. in the 5, Hamlin in the 18, Logano in the 20. And because we just saw Kyle Busch in trouble there a minute ago, pointing out that Kyle choosing not to drive the Nationwide Series races for Joe Gibbs this year, where he's had so much success, and Hamlin finds himself in that car for a significant number of races. That is Trevor Bayne in the 60, who's got some trouble.
Yeah, it looks like he may have a flat.
Side is the tire down on? To the right rear if it's down, otherwise it's just the engine shaking me to death.
Oh yeah, that's... I understand now why he does have a flat tire. That was Brian Scott in the 11 car.
Yeah, you could hear just what, when he, after that contact, you could hear the engine change tune. I don't know if it all happened at the same time, but it looks like they may have a problem with this engine.
Yeah, he had reported a little earlier that he thought he might have a header or something broken. Looks like it might be a little more severe than that.
And the bottles of water they go into the hood with are to pour on each of the exhaust pipes coming from each cylinder.
Yeah, what happens there, you put that water on the cylinder, on the exhaust pipe, and the one that is not firing won't turn it instantly to steam. You'll be able to identify which cylinder is dead. Joey Logano at the back of this quartet. Dave?
He is pushing his Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Denny Hamlin right now. But remember, we've talked throughout the show about the deal that Logano had with Tony Stewart, and Logano said this under caution.
You still go with the 33 on what we're trying to do, right?
I mean, yeah. Every time I go with somebody, I'm screwing someone else back over. Kind of sucks here. I mean, I'm loyal to him. I told him I was going to be.
Loyal to Tony Stewart. Where does that leave Denny Hamlin in the red and black 18, especially now that his teammate Brian Scott appears to have his car a bit injured?
That was Scott in some of that contact
on the backstretch.
4.
Mike Bliss. Oh, man, Mike had such a good run going here. That's a lot of damage to that car.
Caution is out, third one of the race at the midway point. Mike Bliss led 6 laps earlier in this race. Was running 27th at the time. And now he sits in the infield and begins to climb out of that battered Toyota. So when you crash on the straightaway, that's usually an indication that something went wrong.
Yeah, he had to get out of the throttle. You saw they were catching somebody really quick right there. As soon as he backed off the throttle, he got hit. Very, very tough break there for Mike Bliss. And that's one of the dangers of this tandem draft. We heard Danica Patrick's radio earlier about the driver doing the pushing, can't see what's going on in the car in front of him. Joe Nemechek had no idea, probably, they were running up that quickly on traffic. That's exactly what Tony Stewart said when Dale talked to him earlier, that he didn't like about it, the communication part anyway.
Yeah, it sure puts a lot more in the driver's hands. You have to pay attention, and your spotter, of course, that's all the way on the other side of the racetrack. Difficult for them to see, to kind of let you know that there could be trouble there. Pit stops, not for everyone, but for some of the front runners, this will be interesting.
Got a little mixed bag here. Some of them staying out. Dave?
Denny Hamlin's car was pushing just a little bit hard to turn. They will make a chassis adjustment on it, but fuel only to keep him with his Joe Gibbs teammate, the 20 of Logano, who also takes fuel only.
Other end of the pit lane, Kyle Busch will come in to have some more attention paid to that car, Doc.
Yeah, damaged right front fender. They got to come in and put some bare bond on. Actually going to put some screws and pop rivets into a patch over the right front fender and part of the right front grill area. That's why the car wasn't very fast when we went back out. That's from that contact with the 88 car on pit road on the previous pit stop. Kyle trying to get that bandage put on to help the aerodynamics in the front of the car.
As he came in, it looked like it may even be towed in a little bit too, and that can cost you a lot of speed. You got those front tires working against each other. So a little quick front end alignment check and a little quick band-aid to the bodywork. And we'll see if Kyle Busch can make another run from the back of the pack to the front like we saw him do earlier in the race after they replaced a damaged right side window. Just at halfway, under caution, our coverage presented by GoDaddy.com.
Yes, time to get it on. Am I the only one who wants to have fun tonight? Come on.
Well, the first half of our NASCAR Nationwide Series race today at Daytona has been eventful. 18 lead changes among 10 drivers, 3 cautions. One of them a crash involving Danica Patrick that has left her back in the garage area with repairs being made to her car. And we are set for a restart in one more lap. Seen a lot of tandem drafting, seen a lot of pack racing, and about every caution we've seen, at least the last couple anyway, has been bump drafting gone wrong.
Yeah, and right there, Danica was realized she got hit behind pretty hard, too hard at that part of the racetrack, but she also will learn a lesson from that. She had the opportunity just to turn it left and lock it down. Probably wouldn't have been much damage, just get 4 tires.
F***ing 88 hit me when we're in a big pack. What the
Yeah, he wrecked the shit out of you there.
Brother, what the is he thinking?
I'm guessing that's probably a fairly common sentiment expressed by the driver when they get wrecked out of the draft.
Yeah, she's a driver for sure. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
All right, so we await a word from Danica. Reporter standing by at her hauler. Meantime, we get set to go back racing after a little mix of pit strategy on this last set of stops. Front 9 cars did not stop. 18 car of Denny Hamlin was the first one off of pit road. He'll line up for the restart in 10th position. And actually, a couple of other cars have made late stops, so that'll bump Hamlin up to the 8th spot for the restart. Thoughts on that strategy by not pitting from some of these front runners?
Well, I would like to have had my tank full of fuel. I don't know why they would stay out. I guess they just want to keep the track position, but it's so easy to get it back here. I would have probably made a pit stop.
Kurt Busch in the 1, Dale Jr. in the 5. Couple of drivers with track position hooked up in the draft for the first time all day to keep an eye on. Childress teammates Elliott Sadler in the 2 and Austin Dillon in the 3.
Yeah, that got hooked up right before that last caution a little bit and were making some pretty good time. Now they're up front, going for the lead.
By Kane. And around Dale Jr. Elliott Sadler to the point at Daytona with that famous number 3. Driven by Richard Childress' grandson, Austin Dillon, right behind him.
Ooh, looking at everything going on behind them. They're in the right spot for sure.
Just so tense. And remember at Daytona, that yellow line on the bottom of the racetrack, you can't go to the inside of that and advance your position.
Yeah, I did this for a long time, and I knew it was intense, but I'm quite certain my hands didn't have the perspiration on them that I have standing here watching this take place right now. Just amazing to watch these drivers.
Yeah, it has to be nerve-wracking for those drivers to be in the center. And even like Tony Stewart, he's trying to stay out of trouble. He's up on the outside lane. He's got about 3 or 4 cars under him.
Always hated getting myself caught in that outside lane. You have nowhere to go. The wall obviously keeps you from having be able to make evasive action other than turning left. And so I'm sure that Tony knows that well too, but he's making some time being able to get out of this a little bit.
By the way, Kyle Busch has driven right back up through about half the field in that 54 car. There he is. That's Reed Sorensen in the 52 he's drafting with. While for the lead, Sadler in the 2, Earnhardt Jr. in the 5.
And see Joe Nemechek in that mix once again. He's doing a terrific job here pushing today. He's got Kurt Busch there that he's pushing towards the front now.
And looking at Kyle Busch, you can't count him out. I don't care what it is. I don't know how many times he wrecks a car. We saw in that Bud shootout how he wrecked 3 times and won the thing. He was 4 seconds off the pace here just a second ago.
Now in that mix, you see the green and white Ford of Trevor Bayne. He is not on the lead lap. He's obviously gotten whatever problems he had fixed because he's up to pace with the leaders. But Bayne is a couple of laps down in 37th spot. Jamie?
Well, the problem was he was down on power. He came in, they discovered a plug wire was off. They fixed it. He said he's good to go, but as you said, a couple laps down.
That'll break your heart when you know you got a car that's fast enough to run with the leaders and you find yourself a couple of laps down. And he is not the first car that's not on the lead lap, so if the caution were to come out, he can't get the free pass either.
And it's going to take a couple free passes for him to get back on the lead lap.
This might be stating the obvious, but Joe Nemechek's going to have a say in who wins this race here today. He has the ability to keep that car tucked right on the whoever he's pushing's bumper, and they make a lot of speed around here.
Talking about driver of the 87 car, Florida native, Joe from Lakeland, Florida.
A combination of things. Their cooling system is a little more open than it is in the Sprint Cup Series, and they're doing obviously a good job with that, but I think Joe's doing a good job of keeping his car cool and being able to push somebody to make a lot of time. Austin Dillon doing a good job too. You know, they were struggling in the first practice session to get this right. We saw Elliott and Austin working together trying to refine this process. They've done a really good job though.
Here comes Casey Kane being pushed by Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Mixing it up. Here comes Brad Keselowski in the 22 with help from the 2-lap down Trevor Bayne. That's one way to get one of your laps back. Draft by the leaders with somebody else.
That's what it's going to take right now for him to have a chance, other than a couple of cautions kind of back-to-back that might get him in a good position.
While we watch this race up front, we check with Dr. Terry Punch back in the garage.
Guys, work on going back here in Danica Patrick Chevrolet. The entire front of the car has been peeled away. Tony Eury there on his knees trying to orchestrate what's going on. They're going to put a whole new front section on, front nose, right front suspension, upper and lower A-frames, new radiator. A lot of work to be done here. Remember now, Danica trying to run the full season for the championship. Important to get this car back on the racetrack. Danica now decompressing and cooling off in the back of the hauler. Is going to come out momentarily, try to get back in this car and get back on the track. Guys?
Yeah, one of the problems is you have to get these cars fixed right to get up to minimum speed at a restrictor plate race, and that's why you see them taking the entire front end off the car and taking the time to do it right.
Dare you to pick a winner of this one. Anybody's race still. The drive for COPD 300 at Daytona. Caution is out at Daytona International Speedway for the 4th time in this race. Brian Scott in the Joe Gibbs Racing 11. Not looking as pretty as it was earlier.
Another victim of a little bit of contact through the trial.
Highlight reel of this one's going to be bump drafting gone bad. Michael Lynette in the 43, James Busher in the 30, the black car to that side.
Yeah, I think Brian Scott pulled down thinking that Michael Lynette would help push him by that car. They had a nice little run going there, but Lynette hooked him in the right rear and turned him straight into the wall. Actually turned him into James Busher before he got to the wall.
Yeah, but James Busher got a pretty good lick there. Probably have to have some damage repaired.
Probably good that he hit Busher before he hit the wall. Broke a little bit of the momentum.
Still a lot of damage to the car.
Yeah.
It wasn't good for James Busher.
Brian Scott running 20th at the time. And so sets up the potential for another round of pit stops. 45 laps to go, Andy.
Yeah, this is right inside the fuel window for some teams. Some maybe just outside of that fuel window. I expect to see everybody on pit road. I know my car would be on pit road right now.
And as tense as the racing has been, you better, in your making your fuel calculations, allow for all 3 green, white, checker finishes at the end of this one, I think.
Yeah, the key thing is they got to make sure they get the car full. These refueling systems, that's not as easy as it sounds. They really have to concentrate and get it full of fuel.
Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Sam Hornish Jr., top 4 as they come to pit road with what will be 44 laps to go. Dave?
Tony Stewart gives up second. Alan, they have alternated rights and lefts all day. This will be the second set of right side tires that Tony Stewart will get and fill it full of Sunoco fuel. Vince?
The 22 of Brad Keselowski, 2 right sides and fuel. As for his teammate, Sam Hornish Jr., he says it's a little tight, corner exit, free it up a touch, fuel only.
Doc, the right side of your screen, both Busch brothers going to take 4 tires. Top of your screen, Kurt Busch said the car's a little bit snug. Air pressure change to free it up. Bottom of your screen, Kyle Busch says 4 tires. Guys, got to get it full of fuel. We're going to try to make it all the way from here.
Some with much longer stays than others on pit road. And you see Joe Nemechek first out. Free pass to TJ Bell on this caution. That's going to leave Trevor Bayne, the first car, not on the lead lap. Interesting scenario presented for him. Yellow flag number 4 for Brian Scott. Unintentionally trimming some grass. While the cleanup continues under caution here at Daytona, we look ahead to race number 2 for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Week from today, ESPN 2 at 4 Eastern Time. Remember, they just reconfigured the Phoenix track before last fall. It's fast, it's furious, and it'll be fun. That's next Saturday afternoon on ESPN 2. NASCAR Nationwide Series at Phoenix, also streaming live. Watch ESPN.com and the Watch ESPN app. By the way, make sure to follow us on Twitter at NASCAR ESPN. Join the conversation. Tell us what's on your mind. Hear what we're up to. So the Drive for COPD 300 at Daytona is about to hit the 200-mile mark as the field doubles up for the restart. And things have been intense in the race so far. Brad Keselowski says that it's kind of hard to keep your patience in the draft.
You have so much pressure on you, and you know that everybody's watching, and you want to perform for them. You want to perform every lap. And so those little demons just keep talking inside your head of, we got to go right now. And it's hard to shut them up.
That is a battle. You know, you're a race driver, you're a competitor. You have to have that patience. You have to be here at the end to have a chance at this.
Well, we have seen, if you haven't been with us all race long, some very intense racing. A very interesting mix of the 2-car tandem draft and the pack racing. A lot of different leaders today. 13 drivers have been out in front. New record for this race. 25 lead changes today, and we've still got 100 miles to go.
I think some of these drivers are listening to those demons Brad was talking about and not their patience side.
Yeah, you see a lot of drivers up front, though, that haven't won in a long time. They're going to be real hungry to get the victory here today.
So, 35 cars on the lead lap as we get ready to go back racing. Still 100 miles to go at Daytona, the season opener that's been spectacular so far for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. We're back to racing. Three wide. Now 2 wide. Kurt Busch in the 1 with his brother Kyle in the 54 starting to make some moves. And a couple of numbers and names that we just haven't called in the NASCAR Nationwide Series in the past. Ryan Truex in Tom Baldwin's 36. Yes, Truex has been around, but not in this car. And Benny Gordon, veteran short track racer up and down the East Coast in the 24. No, not that Gordon, Benny Gordon.
Getting shuffled back a little bit. You can see here comes Tony Stewart. Has Elliott Sadler on his bumper.
And to the front, Sam Hornish in the 12 to the lead. Quick note, Trevor Bayne did not pit on the yellow, took the wave around, past the pace car. He's now 1 lap down. He's the first car 1 lap down. Caution comes out. He'll get back on the lead lap. Hornish 12, Mike Wallace 01, Kurt Busch 1, Kyle Busch 54.
Yeah, they finally got teamed up here. That's the brothers Busch. This is what they had planned for the whole race, but the first time that the scenarios really presented itself, they felt like if they could get in this position, they would be the 2 drivers to beat.
54 car has been to the back of the pack 3 times in this race. Dropped back on the initial run due to a problem, fixed the problem on a pit stop, went back to the front, got hit on pit road, went to the back of the pack after repairs. Here he comes back to the front.
Mike Wallace doing an incredible job there running second. Talked to Johnny Davis, his car owner, and they were really, really hopeful that this could be a win, a race that they could actually win.
Driving for Johnny Davis's racing team, one of the smaller outfits of the NASCAR Nationwide Series, but certainly one with a big effort and a big heart. Little draft separation there for Wallace and Hornish, and here come the Busch boys.
Yeah, you can see how Kurt Busch got there right on the right rear quarter panel of Mike Wallace, and that kind of separated him from Sam Hornish just for a split second. They were able to drive by them.
Was that Stewart I saw coming on the outside?
Yes, sir.
getting time to win, isn't it?
Yep. Clock's ticking down.
Tony Stewart, the winner of this race, 4 consecutive years and 6 of the last 7, driving that 33 car for Richard Childress Racing. It's Elliott Sadler, another Childress driver in the 2 that's pushing Stewart to the front.
By series champion Ricky Stenhouse there. That's Denny Hamlin on his bumper coming to the front.
6 and 18. Remember last year, they came to the finish in a couple of tandem drafts, and Tony Stewart got to the stripe about 6 inches ahead of the car that he was racing for the win. 7/1000ths of a second was the margin of victory. After what we've seen so far today.
That might seem like a football field by the time this one's over.
I'm thinking another fantastic Daytona finish is still in the cards. Question is, who's it going to be? But then that's the fun, isn't it? Watching, finding out.
Got to hand it to Elliott Sadler's team, though. They've repaired that car. The right side got damaged when he was avoiding Danica Patrick's wreck. And they've done a good job to get it fixed up. Now he's running second.
So, 36 laps to go at Daytona. Tony Stewart out in front, trying to equal Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s record for most wins in the Nationwide Series here.
Back at Daytona, we are 32 laps away from the finish, with Tony Stewart leading the way in Rusty. You've seen it all today in terms of drafting, the 2x2 and the large packs.
Yeah, this new rules have really helped everything. It's just not 2x2 all day long. You can run 3 wide, 2 wide, and not be so dependent on other cars. You see right now, 2 and 3 wide running. We've had an exciting race throughout the day, but Danica Patrick right here, guys, big wreck.
Yeah, she did a great job starting the race, led some laps, but her teammate Colwick gets into the back of her, trying to rope traffic with her, gets to turn a little bit sideways, and basically ended her day, right?
Yeah, it did. Again, no fault of her own, but gaining that experience. It just amazed me what we've seen throughout the day with Kyle Busch going back and forth. They stopped, replaced the right side window, went to the back of the pack, drove up through. There he is, hooked up with Sam Hornish, right straight to the front.
And a lot of us were
and
wondering
there he is, real quick, hooked up right now at the front of the pack.
Yeah, a lot of us were wondering how good this new car was going to run, his new race team. And boy, I tell you what, him being an owner in that 54, he's been running great throughout the day, guys.
So that is your Dodge race rundown so far. And as usual, things changing all the time. The second I said that Kyle was leaving, now we have Denny Hamlin, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. out front.
Yeah, well, I've been waiting for Denny Hamlin to get up front all day long. He's made it a couple times, but the other guy in third place there, Tony Stewart, the guy I've been looking at, he's been hovering up there all day long. And what about young Austin Dillon right here, right behind Dale Earnhardt Jr. now, guys?
Austin's doing a great job, getting a lot of experience. It looks like they've got the reins pulled back on Austin just a little bit as he moves his way towards the front, but he's been very, very patient, getting a lot of lap times in the day.
And guys, is that Dale Earnhardt Jr.? Got that black number 3 in tow. How about that?
Got nothing to say until it's 5
laps to go.
Look
Look at that black number 3 behind you.
I think that's a combination that fans probably very much like here. Alan?
Nicole, thanks. 3/4 of the distance is done at Daytona. And yes, if Earnhardt Jr. is pushed to the win by the black number 3 or vice versa, these grandstands will be thundering.
Gives you chills just standing looking at that combination there right now. Fans are loving it.
Still plenty of time to go in this race, though. 29 laps at Daytona is a long time. A lot of racing.
And a lot Childress has 4 cars in this race, and they're got all 3 of them in the top 4 right now.
Still 33 cars on the lead lap. And by the way, this race does have a history of the late caution. In 8 of the last 9 Daytona Nationwide races, the last green run has been 7 laps or less.
Hey, we were just looking a while ago that kind of 8 cars that broke away and separated themselves by quite a distance. No longer that way.
Stewart to the inside. Suddenly plenty of company up front. Now, Kyle Busch and Kurt Busch were up there racing for the lead a minute ago in the 1 in 54. They have slipped back just a little bit. Now with Kurt running 8th and Kyle running 10th, Doc.
And how much more is Kyle going to have to overcome today? A right side window, a right front fender, and now he's told the crew that the water temperature gauge is no longer working. He said, guys, my gauge now will be when I see steam coming out from under the hood. I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, that's a handicap because he doesn't know how long he can stay in this position. You see, pushing his brother, Kurt. He has no way of knowing how long he can do that without causing damage to the motor. And that's not good.
39 car.
You're below the yellow line.
Joey,
nice and easy now. Nice and easy.
That's Joey Gase, one of the youngsters in the race.
Maybe the caution Trevor Bayne's looking for to get back on the lead lap here.
And another one.
Yeah, that's a big break for Trevor Bayne. He has a fast car. He's been able to drive straight to the front.
Yeah, what a great call that was for them to stay out there, take the chance on that wave around, getting that lap back, and then keeping themselves in position here.
After taking the wave around at that last caution, Trevor restarted at the back of the field, and he had driven up to about 5th in line.
Yeah, he was right there in the shot for the lead.
Yep. So now Bayne will take advantage of NASCAR's free pass rule. The first car not on the lead lap when the yellow comes out gets waved around the pace car. That puts Trevor Bayne back on the lead lap from 2 laps down.
Yeah, pit road's closed. You see everybody going by. I don't expect to see everyone on pit road. They most of them should have enough fuel. The one thing that would be I would like to have is just a little extra fuel in that tank though for a green-white checker, because what we've seen today, that could happen. Not, maybe more than once.
Yeah, I think somebody back there, 14th, 15th on back, may kind of come in just to give them that insurance.
All right, so while the pace car gathers up the field and we see who is or is not going to pit here and what strategies they'll play, let's talk more about the troubles, these latest troubles for Kyle Busch. Tim Brewer in our ESPN Tech Garage has an update. Tim?
Thanks, AB. What Kyle's looking for inside the car, we preset these gauges. And like 240 degrees right here, we're comfortable with that number. But as the temperature creeps up, the red indicator comes on when we cross 250. Now, when you get back over here to this 275 number, it's going to start flashing. The indicator's going to be there, just like Andy said. It's going to start spraying water out of this overflow, and it's going to blow it up the windshield. The trick is you got to come in and replenish the water system, because if it gets real low, if you don't come to pit road and replenish it, you're going to burn the motor up. You're not going to finish the race. AB?
Yeah, and one thing that they've got going here, you can't just come in and fix that gauge. It's probably a sending unit or something wrong. They can't fix it quickly, so he's stuck with this. And the only indicator he has, if it's overheating, is that overflow tube. You'll see that right there at the base of the windshield, but sometimes that's too late when you see it coming out there.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll probably see him be a little more conservative in how long he stays tucked up until it gets down to the final laps.
See the oil dry being spread on the racetrack from what was left behind by the Joey Gase car, and here come the leaders to the opening of pit road. Stops will be with 25 laps to go.
It is open. You see them all coming now.
They know about that late history of cautions here too, I think, AB.
Yeah, no sense in gambling here.
Screen, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., fuel only. The same for Dale Earnhardt Jr., very close, so they only need a splash.
About 4 seconds of fuel for Kyle Busch, and they're being very careful trying to get it back up. That's stuck in the pits now, trying to get around. They had a tire changer on Casey Kane's car that had him blocked in. He had to back up and leave. Cost him a lot of time on that stop.
Yeah, well, it's a few more spots when you've come from the back 3 times.
And I'll tell you, at this style of racing, I'd almost rather be back a little bit and have the momentum going forward when the race is over. Sometimes if you're up front, you're kind of a sitting duck for everybody that's coming to the front. We'll see Trevor Bayne doing that.
It's kind of your favorite saying about the way to finish one of these, right? Be moving forward at the finish.
Got to be moving forward. The only thing I'd be a little concerned with is what I've seen with these Toyotas is they need a good car behind them pushing them. They're good out front if they have that help.
25 laps to go at Daytona. The driver who started first suiting back up after a long time in the garage with repairs being made to her car that was damaged in a crash back at lap 49. We're at lap 95 now. Who's going to win it at Daytona today? I have no idea. Stay tuned. It should be fun.
Daytona, presented by GoDaddy.com, domains, websites, and everything in between. And in part by Nationwide Insurance. Call now to get a quote.
23 laps to go in today's race at famed Daytona International Speedway, setting up for quite the spectacular finish as we wrap up the 5th caution of the event. Daytona and a drafting race always brings some young people to the front that might steal a good finish. How about Casey Roderick, 19 years old, from Lawrenceville, Georgia, running right now up with the lead group. He's in 15th position.
Done a great job. He's got 250 miles experience under his belt now.
19-year-old Johanna Long from Pensacola got a free pass earlier in the race to get back on the lead lap. She's in the hunt for a good finish in her Daytona debut in the Nationwide Series.
How about the leader? Rookie of the Year, Timmy Hill, the 15 car, taking the outside. Vince?
It's interesting, Timmy Hill could not run this race last year because he was only 17. He had to wait to the second week of the season at Phoenix when he actually turned 18 to compete. So now he's back running Daytona, and it's his 19th birthday today. You couldn't ask for a better present than leading at Daytona.
Now, that recognition is all good and fine for the youngsters, but then there's still Tony Stewart trying to win this race for a 5th straight year.
Tony, it's on you, bud. We're all done in here. I'll sit back and enjoy the show then.
Stewart lined up 8th for the restart. That will come with 22 laps to go. Just over 50 miles remaining in this race. On the lead lap, 33 cars. Trevor Bayne, the last of them. Green flag at Daytona. Now's when something I'll call the politics of the draft comes into play. Last year's Rookie of the Year's got nobody to draft with. He's going to go from leading to left.
Traffic jam getting into turn 3.
Kenny Wallace to the lead. 09 car. Being very well drafted with by Robert Richardson in the 23. The Texan.
Here comes Tony Stewart and Elliott Sadler to the high side, though.
And to the bottom, Denny Hamlin in the 18, pushed by Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Smoke said sit back and watch the show if these next 20 laps are any more entertaining than what we've seen the first 100. Should be fun.
While you watch the snarling pack. We mentioned Danica Patrick has come back from the garage, returned to the race, 48 laps down in 39th place after the crash earlier.
The intensity's picking up. He's got all these cars 3 wide. Real nervous part of the race, especially if you're sitting on the pit box having to watch this.
It's going to be a lot more taking and a lot less giving right here. Get down to it.
Both of last year's nationwide races at Daytona had 35 lead changes. We've just hit the 35th lead change today, and we've still got 20 laps to go. Hamlin, Earnhardt Jr., Keselowski.
We see Joey Logano stand up in there really without a drafting partner. He's trying to hang on to Stewart and Sadler right now. He's going to need some help to stay up there soon.
Mike Wallace, oh, somebody in the wall.
Like
Hornish.
Hornish.
Oh.
A chain reaction.
Brian Scott again. Had gone to the garage for repairs after being involved in an accident at lap 74. Come back out. Now he needs some more repairs. Meantime, up front, Tony Stewart to the lead with Elliott Sadler's drafting help.
Brad Keselowski has that guy that we talked about, knows how to get it done here. Mike Wallace on his rear bumper.
Yo, look out, hang out in the back of that pack there. Hanging it out sideways, that was Benny Gordon in the 24. Nice save. Lead change number 36. New track record for the Nationwide Series at Daytona, and we're not done yet. Haven't had the big wreck yet. Haven't had the spectacular finish we're expecting yet. 18 laps to go. Stewart leads. Trouble off turn 4. A dozen cars involved. Caution is out. That's Reed Sorensen. Casey Roderick in the 08. Mike Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Truex, and more.
It's a chain reaction that started way up front. So there's Denny Hamlin.
With pack racing, the history at Daytona has been the closer you get to the finish, the harder people press, the less give and take there is, the more likely the big wreck.
Yeah, there's still plenty of take. There's just no give as you get toward the end.
Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, there's Allgaier. He was one of the first ones to make contact with the wall. Actually got up on top of the wall. Kenny Wallace having a great run. He's destroyed.
And the cars are running this close together in these packs. All it takes is for somebody to get just a little out of shape or have to breathe the throttle to keep from running over, and it becomes this chain reaction type wreck, and that's exactly what we saw here. And you know it's generally going to happen as we get within that last 20 laps, and everybody trying to get as much as they possibly can.
There's Justin Allgaier out of his car. That is Casey Roderick in the 08.
We just talked about what a great job this 19-year-old had done all day long. Unfortunately, wrong place at wrong time.
Yeah. Mentioned how Daytona can offer that surprise finish, but Daytona can also take and dash your dreams in a heartbeat.
And it just tears your heart out. You know, it gives you that slight bit of hope and anticipation that you may have a great day, and then it just jerks it out from under you.
See Kurt Busch going up through the middle with Kyle, and then all of them start getting together right at the front of the field.
You can see that started, looked like with Trevor Bayne getting separated, got a little bit loose behind the 6.
And you see somebody drives right underneath of Allgaier.
Yeah, that's the 52, Reed Sorensen, that was underneath him.
He was completely underneath.
See Johanna Long getting a piece of that. Not a lot of contact, but she has some damage to the left front. I believe it starts right here. Watch Trevor Bayne. May have to jump out of the throttle and get sideways here. A lot of times when you have to jump out to keep them running over that car in front of you, your car will just jump for about a half a lane.
I'm telling you, Reed Sorensen was completely underneath Justin Allgaier's car.
With Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Well, he got a good view.
I have to check that right front fender on his car. Got a little contact there.
They're to the bottom. They're to the bottom. Wrecking in front of you. Stay low. Stay low. Stay low. Come on. 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 Wrecking behind you. Come on. Go.
Wow. I cannot imagine that was a fun view for Reed Sorensen.
Yeah, look from that. The first contact was all the way at the lead. You can see Kurt Busch get into the left rear of Joey Logano just a little bit, and everybody checked up.
So, sixth caution in the Drive for COPD 300 at Daytona is out. 14 laps to go. Cleanup continues. As the cleanup continues here at Daytona International Speedway, our NASCAR Nationwide Series coverage presented by GoDaddy.com. Some pit stops. Jamie?
And Austin Dillon in the 3 car. He lost his drafting mate early on in Elliott Sadler. He's been hanging on. The rookie, they're working on the right side. You see they're pulling out. He had a fender rub there on the right side, taking their time. Let's go to Vince.
4 tires in Sunoco fuel for Dale Earnhardt Jr. They want to check those fenders to make sure he doesn't have a tire rub. Was squeezed in that little contact. They don't feel like they had any real damage to the car, but they didn't want to take a chance. Better safe than sorry. AB?
All right, Vince, thanks. So, as you see the repairs there to the Austin Dillon car, he and Dale Jr. are going to be together at the back of the field after this multi-car crash that began in turns 3 and 4 when the leaders kind of bottlenecked up an accordion.
You could see that right up front, as Andy had pointed out, that Joey Logano looked like maybe a little help from Casey Kane, who was pushing him a little bit. I think it's just the combination of all of that. And then Reed Sorensen all the way up to where he could see the transmission.
Man, that could
Just
not
an
have been
all-power.
fun.
If he had his eyes open, he could have seen. I'm not sure.
You see all the cars involved. Some good cars, too. Mike Wallace having a great run. Denny Hamlin. And Robert Richardson Jr., he was up front for a lot. Page 2.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
See officials working on the safer barrier there in turn 4. So we'll take a break, come back for the restart, and the final laps at Daytona. Kurt Busch is the leader.
Why is Phoenix racing right? Why is that the right choice for you?
I mean, this is old school fun racing. This is an opportunity to go, hey, you know, here's a budgeted team on how they have to operate. What happens when you throw in a championship caliber driver?
Well, it is a championship caliber driver. Kurt Busch, the 2004 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion, leading today's NASCAR Nationwide Series race at Daytona. Coverage presented by GoDaddy.com. We've got just 11 laps to go. Busch, after his split with Penske Racing, now driving for James Finch's Phoenix Racing. Finch, a Florida native, has his business interests down in this part of the woods, and he loves to win at Daytona, Doc.
And he has no contract with his driver. It's a handshake agreement. James, people thought you might be nuts in the offseason hiring this guy. What do you think about the move now, sticking your neck out and hiring Kurt Busch?
Well, I knew that Kurt was one of the best racers, one of the best racers in the sport, so I could not hire him. You know, I just didn't have the funds before to hire him, and so it kind of fell in my lap. And I said, "Hey, come on, get in."
Talk about the fact that you don't have a contract. What's the agreement here?
The agreement is that I'm not going to fire him, and he can't quit. So we're going to make the whole year and do the best we can. If we got to fight, we'll fight.
All right, good enough. We said we'll roll in the mud, but we're not going to quit each other. We're going to make this thing work. How about that, guys?
Gotta love it. James Finch fielded successful winning race cars for many years. He's got that man, Kurt Busch, behind the wheel and in the lead at Daytona as we get ready for the final laps.
NASCAR Nationwide Series at Daytona, presented by GoDaddy.com. Domains, websites, and everything in between. And in part by Nationwide Insurance. Call now to get a quote.
About that time of day at Daytona. Time to pass out a trophy to the winner of today's NASCAR Nationwide Series season opener. It's all shined up, sitting in Daytona's hallowed victory lane. But it is very much a question as to who they'll be handed it to in another 9 laps. The delay in the lengthy cleanup here has been to make repairs to where the safer barrier meets the concrete wall in turn 4, because when the accident happened, the front splitter from under one of the cars literally wedged into that wall. This is the reason for the caution, a multi-car wreck in that corner.
Trying to get a look, see whose splitter might be wedged under that wall.
I'm betting
could
31.
Be Reed's. It could be any one of those.
I'm betting 31 just from the angle that car's
could be
tipped up there. Well, while they finish the cleanup and get ready to go back racing, a number of the drivers in the accident have been released from the infield medical center. Jamie?
And that is the good news. Everybody's okay, and they're standing back here watching the replays. And Denny, this is your first time on this style of track in the new style Nationwide car. What happened there?
I quickly reminded myself why I don't run these races. It's just so hard, man, to control your own fate in these type of races. But had fun with the Z-Line Toyota today. I thank Jim and those guys for putting me in here, and had a great time. Had some runs up front, and was running up front right there at the end, and just chain reaction. It looked like Kyle and Kurt, a huge run through the middle, and it surprised some guys. And next thing you know, the guys start moving all around, and that's where the wreck starts. So I was just one of those guys that would happen to be in the middle of the pack at the wrong time.
All right, Denny Hamlin will be back in the 18 car next week at Phoenix. So Justin Allgaier, that's some reaction there. You were on 2 wheels. What did you see happen?
Honestly, I saw a couple of guys get kind of moved up in front of me, and it looked like kind of moved up into my teammate James Busher, and so I cut to the bottom to try and hopefully get around him, and unfortunately got caught up with other guys that were trying to get by. But it's unfortunate. Like you said, the pack racing and the 2-car tandems, they're tough to do both of them at the same time, and guys are getting runs when they shouldn't have. So I hate it for the Brent Chevy guys. They did a great job, and we rode around the back most of the day, to be honest with you, just to stay out of stuff like this, and was hoping that maybe it wasn't too early to go, and obviously it was too early. So we'll be back again next week at Phoenix, and hopefully we can get that Brent Chevy in victory lane next week.
Tough way to start this season, of course, thinking big picture for championship. Have to note right now the red flag is out. We're going to have Rookie of the Year, going for Rookie of the Year, Casey Roderick. We talked about you, Alan Bestwick mentioned you were moving your way toward the front, and then boom, you're back here. What happened?
Well, I was at the top side, just hanging out. We were running really well, and we had Kyle Busch push us to, I think, 8th, and man, I was having fun out there. I was a rookie, having veterans push me around was pretty cool to experience, and I think I started moving around a little bit too much on Kyle, and he opted out on me, so I went straight to the back, and then I got to the top side, and I think I hooked up with Michael Annette, and I was just hanging in there, and then all of a sudden I see Allgaier just shoot to the top, and man, everybody just jammed up together there, and I went to the middle, and I was by it, and I think the 50 car come up and got us in the left side door. But man, I tell you what, this Randy Hill Racing Ford was on a roll. We don't have the dollars that everybody else has out here, and we were doing a great job, I thought, and Go Green is a joint effort with us, and man, they did an excellent job. So thanks to Randy Hill and everybody involved.
Good job by you today. Casey Roderick, I'm sure we're going to be hearing more of his name. And we have to mention Reed Sorensen has been checked and released, and he took off. Let's go back upstairs now to Alan.
Jamie, thanks. No less an authority than Bill Elliott says that Casey Roderick has the work ethic, and the attitude to be a champion in this sport.
I think he explained the wreck better than we did. On TV. That's pretty good.
Well, you see the field stopped on the backstretch under the red flag with Kurt Busch leading and Tony Stewart second. Tony seeking his 7th win in the Nationwide Series here at Daytona. He's won 4 straight. He is our in-race reporter today. Let's talk to him under the red.
Hey, Smoke, Dale Jarrett, you there?
Yeah, bud.
I don't know what you've seen out there, but we've had a great time watching this show today. How's it look from your view?
I told Bob Jeffries, my spotter, earlier, I said, I hope surely that one lap down the backstretch that what we did there will make the top 10 plays of the day on ESPN. So I'm hoping for that. But it's been fun out here. It's been proof that you don't have to be in the 2-car tandem to get to the front here. But, like I said, coming down to the end of it here, it's definitely going to be a paired-up situation.
As we get lined up and ready to go, you're going to have just under 10 laps to go. You're going to have a teammate of sorts there today, Elliott Sadler, on your bumper. Can the two of you make this happen and you get win number 5 in a row?
I hope so. Elliott's been doing an awesome job, man. I mean, we would not be sitting where we're at if it weren't for him back there. So I hope we can do it together here. He's done an awesome job. He's the one that's had to do all the work. So we'll just see what we can do here and get the best we can here. We got an awesome Oreos race car right now. This Richard Childress Racing Chevy is bad to the bone.
Been a long day. You got any Oreos in there to snack on?
You know me, I can always eat. I wish I did right now. I'm getting a little hungry, but hopefully we'll win this thing and they'll give me some in victory lane.
All right, man. It's been fun watching. Have a good, safe end of this. Good luck.
Thanks, bud.
Tony still has time to move up that top 10 list in these last 8 laps.
That's right.
Maybe get himself the #1 play of the day.
Yeah, we might not have seen his best move yet.
That's right. Field is rolling. They are on 1 to go. They are coming to the restart. The splitter has been removed. This a replay. There it is.
Got it.
Off of Kenny Wallace's car, I'll say by the paint color.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing come down to a green-white checker, maybe more than one. They'll be glad they've got enough Sunoco fuel in there to make that happen. They pitted up last on lap 95.
Quick reminder, this just the beginning of the action for the NASCAR Nationwide Series 2012. Every race on the ESPN networks, including next Saturdays at Phoenix. Remember, the mile track reconfigured before last fall's races, fast and furious and a little fickle. And we'll go at it next Saturday afternoon at 4 Eastern on ESPN2. The NASCAR Nationwide Series also streaming live on WatchESPN.com and the Watch ESPN app.
Yeah, it'll be a totally different style of racing out in Phoenix, but it'll be fun.
Coming to the green, 8 laps to go, unless we get an extension of the race with the green-white checker rules. Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart, side by side on the front row. There are still 24 cars on the lead lap and a lot of potential winners of this one. Green flag. Kyle Busch pushing on brother Kurt's back bumper. They go to the lead. 6 is Stenhouse, 12 is Hornish. It's Stewart on the outside with Elliott Sadler and the 2 drafting with him.
We saw Casey Kane in there hooked up with Joey Logano in the 20. He won here back in July.
And by the way, keep an eye, the black car with the blue logo on the hood, David Reagan in the 27, and Trevor Bayne pushing him. Stewart walked in there as jumping to the outside lane is Stenhouse, pushed by Hornish.
Stewart looks like he wants to go to the middle, see if they can make that work for a pass.
3 wide for the race lead. Slams the inside wall.
They were lined up 3 wide, or looked like 5 or 6 deep there.
I don't know how they made it as far as they did. Nemechek's destroyed too. You see David Reagan, his car's destroyed. Hornish got some damage.
Here we are. Be ready. All right, guys. 4 tires. 4 tires. Take your time. Take your.
Just mentioned David Reagan drafting to the front with Trevor Bayne, and that whole pack, second accident in a row, kind of accordioned there in turn 4.
Yeah, one of the things you saw, they were 3 wide for the lead and just nowhere to go, and it seemed like it just stacked everybody up. And as they started stacking up, they started making contact.
Yeah, when you're in that situation, you can't really stay wide open. So as they start slowing down there, as you were saying, they have to slow down behind, and when you get 3 or 4 rows deep in that, then there's going to be contact.
Michael Annett out of his car. David Reagan sitting in his car, but loosening up the safety equipment. And Joe Nemechek all torn up. What a shame. What a great race he had today.
Yeah, he did. He had an incredible race going.
Watch the yellow 12. That's around the area where it all begins.
Yeah, that's have to say that, of course, David Reagan was getting a big push from behind there, but, you know, Hornish was up there, and like David Reagan tried to stick his nose in there and maybe take the spot away. Just product of late racing and pack racing here at Daytona.
One back.
Yeah, you can see right
And they're inside.
there.
You're in the middle, 3 wide.
Like Reagan tried to
Go,
force
go,
it.
go, go. Well, you come in there if you can. Come in there. We got damage there, Bruce.
I'm curious from your perspective as a driver, Dale, when you're in the draft, Trevor Bain's pushing David Reagan.
Yeah, you got to go somewhere. That's what I said. Yeah, he didn't have much choice there. Hornish left that open a little bit by being a little bit too high there maybe. But David Reagan was getting pushed, and just nothing you can do. You have to steer your car where it's going.
And I guess my point was, even if Reagan had lifted off the gas, he was still being pushed.
Yeah, you can see right here, riding with Trevor Bain. He's connected to the rear bumper of Reagan.
Good front, easy. Check up, check up. Keep coming, keep coming. You're all good. They're crashing behind. Keep coming through here.
Game of inches. Well, the pack thins. More repairs for Dale Jr. and for Sam Hornish.
Looks like Junior's car took a pretty good lick on the right front corner. Yeah, down the whole right side.
You guys good? You guys all good? You guys all good? All right, let's go. Let's go.
Now, in the draft, and with the number of lead lap cars thinned a little bit, don't be surprised if Junior comes back through, even with that damaged car, if the suspension isn't knocked out of line and so on, and has a decent finish.
Yeah, remember the mud shootout? Car that won that one was about destroyed. I wouldn't count him out, but he does have a lot of damage.
And he's going to have a short time to get there. But the top 10's not out of the question, but certainly he came here to win this race today.
Yeah. So, up front, while these drivers were involved in the accident, Kurt Busch and Tony Stewart and Elliott Sadler and Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse, guys that were shuffling around for the lead, all through that cleanly. And they'll get to reset again and try and pair up in the restart. And as we wait for the cleanup to finish and the restart to form in just one more lap, reminds you that our aerial coverage today is provided by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear has learned making tires for the proving grounds of NASCAR inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. Beautiful day in Daytona Beach, Florida. A little on the cool side for here, but I'm sure a lot of folks around the country would take this weather today. And we're getting ready for the finish with Kurt Busch, the leader for this restart.
Okay, Kurt, you listen. I got a plan with Kyle. Okay, here's the plan. He wants to make sure you stay tight to the inside cars, and I am going to tell you to go, and Hirschman's with me, and he's going to tell him to go at the same time.
Okay, what they're trying to do is coordinate that restart and have them go at exactly the same time.
Yeah, and what's going to happen here is Kurt Busch, as the leader, is going to choose the outside lane because it's Kyle Busch is in fourth spot. So he's going to want to be hooked up with him. So he has his choice, and he will do that so they can start nose to tail.
One to go is the signal. We'll go back racing with just 2 laps to go in this race. Remember, NASCAR does have rules that if the race is under caution at the conclusion of its scheduled distance, the race can be extended to try and get the fans a green flag finish. But once the leader has taken the white flag under green, the next flag ends the race, be it the yellow flag or the checkered flag. More repairs for Junior. So, terrific stories at the front of the field. Kurt Busch beginning his redemption tour. 2012 with James Finch's Phoenix Racing. His brother Kyle in his own Kyle Busch Motorsports nationwide entry for the first time. He's gone to the back of the pack 3 times today in that 54 car. You see the tattered right front fender. Still, he's lined up in row number 2. And on the inside, Tony Stewart trying to equal Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s record for all-time nationwide wins at Daytona. You know, Earnhardt Sr. got his 7th nationwide win at this track in his 13th try, and it was the 5th in a row in a streak of consecutives. Tony Stewart trying to win his 5th in a row, and his 7th overall is in his 13th try at Daytona today in the Nationwide Series. We'll see if he gets number 7.
Yeah, you know, when we saw Dale Earnhardt doing that, we thought, wow, that'll never happen again. And here Tony Stewart is in position to make it happen once again.
Yeah, and all the while, he still hasn't won a 500. Just about the way it was with Earnhardt when he won his fifth race here.
That could change tomorrow,
Yep.
too.
Good.
19 cars on the lead lap. 2 laps to go in a race that's seen 37 lead changes and lots of shuffling up front. Who's going to get to the checkered flag first?
Go.
The Busch brothers get out front.
Stay to him, stay to him, stay to him.
Joey Logano outside lane in the 20. He's got a push in the draft. That's Trevor Bayne in the 60, the Daytona 500 defending winner.
Coming back from 2 laps down, Trevor Bayne is.
And Stewart boxed in for the moment.
Yeah, that's the problem that they have right now. He and Elliott Sadler are tucked up, but they have nowhere to go right now. Could be clear here in just a second, though, to make that run.
You're pulling away from him a little bit. You're about 3 off a cut.
Looks like Stewart's car.
The white flag is out.
Stewart, maybe.
The last lap is underway. Who gets back first if there's no accident?
I think they're going to have a hard time, even though Logano has a big run, getting back Kurt and Kyle Busch right here.
I don't know. Looks like they might have a run. They do.
Back down, come back down, come
To
back
block.
down.
Cut the other way. Half a lap to go. Here comes Stewart in the 33 as Logano goes to the point. 3 wide in turn 4. A squeeze to the outside wall. Trouble in the corner. Hard, vicious crash. Who gets through to win the race? Caution flag has just been called. The race leader is James Buscher in the 30 car.
Unbelievable.
A heavy crash in the final corner of the race. Kyle Busch's car. Trevor Bayne. Ricky Stenhouse.
It looked like Stewart tried to force it on the outside. Not quite enough room to make it happen.
Well, he had the room. I think that maybe Joey Logano moved up to try to block that progress.
Here's Kurt Busch. The key to the moment is when the caution was officially called. NASCAR reviewing at the moment in race control. There's Tony Stewart. And we'll wait for confirmation of it, but when I heard NASCAR call the caution on its race control channel, James Buscher was out in front of the pack. We'll see.
Stewart had an incredible run going into turn 3.
I actually thought he had something maybe wrong with his car, maybe missing or something as they came down the front straightaway. They were hooked up, but they just weren't going anywhere with he and Elliott Sadler. And you're right, he had such a run.
The call has come. James Buscher has won this race.
That's incredible. I don't know that I've ever seen that many leaders taken out come to the checker.
There's Tony out of the car. And there is Buscher. 21 years old. From Texas. Got married in the offseason to the daughter of his team owner. campaigning in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series on a full-time basis this season, part-time in the Nationwide Series, and he is going to hold a winner's trophy at Daytona.
Yeah, this race was really about surviving, and he was the one that survived to the finish line.
As we go back and look at some of the replays, I want to see how he wove through the wreck, because he was 8th at the white flag.
I don't think he was that high up when they were coming through turn 3 and 4.
Yeah,
I think he was further back.
agree. Yeah, more cars than that wrecked in front of him. Some others that got through there that have some damage, but Elliott Sadler and Austin Dillon didn't make it through. They're going to come out with somewhere maybe top 5 finishes.
All right, turns 3 and 4 coming to the checkered flag.
I really believe Logano pulls up in front to block Tony Stewart here. Let's see if that is what happened, or if it's Trevor Bayne. Now there's Logano. See, yeah, Kurt Busch was actually blocking and moved them up. Hard hit by Kyle Busch, head on into the wall.
And there comes Buescher through the bottom.
Yeah, I think maybe Brad Keselowski is going to finish 2nd and Elliott Sadler 3rd.
What a mess, sir.
What a great job of missing all of that. That's what you have to do. You keep yourself in this. Just ask, people. Over the years, we've seen it happen a number of times. Things happen on the last lap, but he's going to victory lane at Daytona.
Yeah, it looks like Kurt Busch did crowd Joey Logano, and that kind of started the whole chain of events.
I've got him 11th in that corner.
Yep.
Yeah,
Looking
and
at that
he
picture.
really didn't even come close to getting involved. He did a great job of missing all of that. See, Elliott Sadler, there's Austin Dillon going, actually, looks like maybe way down. I don't know if he ended up down pit road, but you can cross the finish line that way too.
Now in this replay,
look, Sadler's in the middle of this right now. He's able to sneak out of there.
Watch the 30 car and watch the yellow light, top right of the screen. Still green, still green. He's clearly out in front. Caution.
There it is. Looks like
You
the
can see
22 car 2nd. Elliott Sadler 3rd. It's like maybe Cole Witt 4th. Nah, it's hard to tell from that angle.
Yeah. They've got a lot of work to do to figure the rest of this out.
While Buescher makes his way to victory lane, let's hear from some of the other top finishers and sort out what happened in those last corners. Dave?
Brad Keselowski walking around the 22 car. Your truck didn't come home whole last night. This barely came home whole, and you almost had the win there at the end.
Almost, just got a little contact in the door clearing through that wreck, and I don't know how we brought the Discount Tire Dodge home. There was a lot of swerving there to save it, but if I just could have got through that without that little bit of contact, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. I'm proud to be in a position to win a race and to have cars that are capable of that, but at some point Daytona is just a roll of the dice. I think you saw it. I think we were running like 8th or 10th there when that all happened, so we should be happy with the 3rd, but I want to win this race at Daytona. I want to win a race during Speed Week, so glad I got another shot tomorrow with the Miller Lite Dodge at the Cup side, and we'll move on to there, and just proud of the Discount Tire team.
Great job today. That close for Brad Keselowski. Vince?
Elliott Sadler was pushing Tony Stewart, and it looked like they had a run that might get Tony back to victory lane again, and then all of a sudden the hole closed up. What happened?
Looked like the leader came up and tried to block, and looked like he blocked too late and then pinched. Looked like the 20 car and pinched us into the wall, but we had that race won, man. We were coming with a whole lot of steam and a whole lot of momentum on the outside. Just really got to thank everybody from RCR, thank everybody from One Main Financial for giving us great race cars, and it's so fun working with Tony. He's just so good and knows how to pick the right line, and we had ourselves in a great situation again, a great chance to win the race, but a lot better than the start we had to last year's season. So a good start. We're on the right foot, and we're going to Phoenix.
Top 5 for Elliott Sadler. Let's go to Jamie Little in victory lane.
How about that for a surprise winner here? Right at the end, hugging his new wife, newlywed in the offseason. Chris, James, you were 11th coming off turn 4. What did you see ensue before you, and how did you get through it?
I don't know who was leading there. Whoever's at the front of that pack started to go up to block the outside line that was coming. Nobody. Thank you. nobody wanted to work with me at the end there. It's like we're all on our own in a tandem draft, and we just got the best draft we could off of everybody. And when I saw them get together up there, I went to the bottom, kept my foot in it, and they started coming back down the track. I somehow squeaked through there and beat everybody through and dodged all the bullets. And this FOE Chevy's beat and banged on every corner. The doors caved in, right front fender, right rear fender, and these guys got it back out there earlier. And we didn't have track position very much today, but we stayed in it to the end, and we won the thing. That's awesome.
21 years old. This is your first NASCAR Nationwide Series win, and it happens in Daytona. What's this like?
It's kind of same thing I experienced a few years back when I won my first ARCA race on a big track was Daytona. So on a big, full-size racetrack like what NASCAR races on, and the second win at Daytona, first time in NASCAR. Hope there's many more to come. This is awesome.
Congratulations. James Buescher, will be seeing a lot more of him this year. Alan?
JB, thanks. Check it out in turn number 4, where James Buescher in that 30 car was with a quarter lap to go in this one. There he is. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11th in line going into turn number 3. And somehow he ducked low and missed all the wreck and kept from getting collected. And the 21-year-old Texan scores his first NASCAR Nationwide Series win, of all places, at Daytona. Next week, it's Phoenix, Saturday at 4 Eastern on ESPN2. College basketball is next.